Well, that definitely wasn't the easiest game to watch as a Jets fan, so we got to break a few things down. We got to turn the page, but there's a whole lot of things to talk about in the world of New York sports. It's Wednesday night, and we are live. And well, welcome everybody into New York Sports WickerMedia. This is Y2K99 broadcasting live from the studio apartment in Newport News, Virginia. I'm glad to see that we got some people here in the chat already. I got a whole lot of stuff to get into. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, of course, a whole lot is going to be about the Jets, but there's a bunch of stuff to get into. We will be doing some trivia, some Jets Raiders trivia a little bit later on tonight. But very quickly, going to say hello to the folks who have joined us early in the chat. Of course, we've got Jets mess. Always pretty much the first one to show up, usually the last to leave. I salute you. Good to see you. David D., the man speaks in emojis. He knows how to use those emojis. Let's see. He loves America. He loves the Jets. And hopefully they will be on fire again when they head out to Vegas, where they got the big torch. I see what you're doing, David. I think at least this is how I'm interpreting it. And turn the lights out, you might say, on the Las Vegas Raiders of Oakland of Los Angeles, California. Hank G, hi to you as well, my friend. And we got Greg Rallo here as well. What's good, Greg? The show's good. And you know why? Because you joined us tonight. It's good to see you. And Jets mess, helping us out with the $10 super chat. My friend, way to go. You better bring the fire tonight. He says, did you watch my post-game rant on Sunday? Or on Monday? I brought some fire that night, and I got a few things to say today. But we're going to get to the Jets in a little bit. First, let's talk about what's on my mind with a little bit of 3 and out. So I'm going to start with a little bit of baseball. The New York Mets managerial search has come to an end. They have hired Carlos Mendoza, the Yankees bench coach. And I wanted to talk about this for a couple of minutes because it kind of affects both New York baseball teams. You know, when David Stearns was hired as the Mets president of baseball operations, he was asked what he's going to seek in a manager once we realized Buck Showalter wasn't coming back. And here's what Stearns said. He wants the ability to manage people, manage personalities, and create and facilitate. He's like Walt Clyde Frazier. He wants to create and facilitate an organizational culture where people enjoy coming to work and work hard. Well, here's the thing. Everybody was linking him up with Craig Counsell, longtime manager of the Brewers, Wisconsin native. Contract was up. It seemed to be a natural fit, being Stearns came from Milwaukee, but it didn't wind up happening. Counsell instead goes to the Chicago Cubs. Counsell, I don't think, ever had any real interest in going to the Mets. Mild at absolute best. And hey, Steve Cohen and David Stearns, they didn't want to be used as negotiating leverage in these contract negotiations. So you know what? I'm fine with that. If he didn't want to be here, if he wanted to be in Chicago more than he wanted to be in New York, good riddance, move on. But the funny thing, I think, with managers, and I think we do this with coaches no matter what the sport, we always get a little bit nervous about the first-time guy because he doesn't have experience. Well, you got to remember this. There were 12 teams that made the playoffs this year in Major League Baseball. Did you know that 10 of those managers, this was their first job? That's right, including Craig Counsell. So 10 of these guys were first-time managers. You never really know. You know, Rob Thompson, he's a great example. Phillies bench, he spent 17 years with the Yankees before joining the Phillies as a bench coach, and now he's led them to back-to-back runs in the playoffs that were really, really impressive. So here's the thing. The Mets hire Carlos Mendoza. So what's the bottom line on Mendoza? See what I did there? Mendoza line. See? Did you like that? Okay. So Mendoza spent 15 years with the Yankees in multiple roles, spent 2 years as a manager in the low minors. That's the only managerial experience he has. He spent the last 4 years with Aaron Boone as his bench coach. Now, what I like is that he was a bit of a commodity. Mendoza was pursued by a bunch of other teams. He was hired by the Guardians, the Padres, the White Sox, the Red Sox. They were all considering Mendoza. The Giants also considered him before hiring Bob Melvin. Zach Scott, the former Mets GM, he actually posted on Twitter that Mendoza was one of the 3 finalists in Boston before they hired Alex Cora. So this isn't a Mets thing. A lot of teams were looking at this guy. Now, here's what I do like about Mendoza. He is very much into player development. So he's got that background. He has a very strong reputation for being detail-oriented. He is well-versed in analytics, but here's the most important thing to me. He has earned the respect of his players over the years, and that is everything to me with a manager. It's not so much the strategy, setting the lineup, all of that. It is keeping the clubhouse focused, keeping them on course, and being able to handle difficulty, being able to handle adversity. So that was my biggest thing, because this guy Mendoza, he's not a former player. He's not a successful manager somewhere else. Can he command the respect of the clubhouse? So from what we're hearing, he should be that kind of a guy. I just hope he's not a clueless pushover like Luis Rojas was. And supposedly he has a $4.5 million contract over 3 years with a club option for a 4th year. So that is the Mets hire. Hey, I can't say I'm happy about it. Can't say I'm upset about it. Let's see what it is. I'll absolutely give him a fair chance. Harlan Abraham stops by. Almost forgot about your show. Well, Harlan, I'm glad you didn't forget. I can tell you I almost didn't forget about my show tonight. Yes, Harlan, that's exactly right. The Mendoza line. Yes, I knew. Yes, that's exactly my point. All right, let's do a little bit on basketball. I was going to do something on hockey, but I think I'm just going to do a separate video. I'm going to do a little bit on Rangers, Islanders, Devils, so I'll probably record that one after the show. I just felt I had a little too much to talk about, and I didn't want to push it on this video, so check that one out. I'll probably record that after the show tonight. It'll be up in the morning. But both the Knicks and Nets come away with wins tonight. Yeah, the Nets defeat the Clippers 100-93. Interesting that the Clippers have a roster with Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard. If this was 5 years ago, the Clippers would be the odds-on favorite to win the NBA championship. But the Nets are 4-4, and I got to give them credit. They've been playing a tough schedule. They've had Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland. They've had some good teams on the schedule. No Ben Simmons tonight. Shocker. He had hip soreness. I mean, please, I get hip soreness just rolling out of bed in the morning now. And Lonnie Walker, I hadn't heard of, 21 points off the bench. That was a team high. So, hey, I got to give the Nets some credit. They've shed the superstars, and they're playing pretty competitive basketball against good teams. So credit to them. The Knicks just wrapped up a victory over the San Antonio Spurs. I actually wanted to mention something about the Monday game against the Clippers. All right, they had lost 2 in a row. That was their first win at the Garden. Tonight was their second. But Julius Randle starting to show some signs of turning things around. I had been really, really upset with him over the beginning of the year. Barely jogging back on defense, just hogging the ball, not shooting it well. He entered Monday night with the worst field goal percentage among players averaging double digits in scoring. Okay, Monday he responds with 27 points on 9 for 20 shooting with 10 rebounds. And tonight, 23 points, 16 rebounds. He's turned it up in these last 2 games. And thank goodness, RJ Barrett, man, he gets maligned, this guy. I have seen people on social media call him the Zach Wilson of the Knicks. Zach Wilson is not a pimple on RJ Barrett's fanny. I said it. So Barrett, even though he can be inconsistent, he came back to the lineup Monday. 26 points, 6 rebounds, shot 9 of 16. LA was forced into 22 turnovers. Excellent job on defense. And then tonight, the Knicks win 126-105 against the Spurs, the youngest team in the league. You had Victor Wembanyama, I can't say it. Wemby make his MSG debut. The Spurs, terrible defensive team. I gotta say, I watched this game on ESPN, and after the first quarter, Katie George, the sideline reporter, is interviewing Greg Popovich, and Popovich has a reputation for being a little bit curmudgeon-y with these sideline interviews. You remember all the years that Craig Sager, rest his soul, was interviewing him. And she asked him, how are you going to disrupt the Knicks offense, which had scored like 35 points in the first quarter? And he just looks at her incredulously and says, how do we disrupt their offense? I have no idea. And he walks away back to the sideline. I love how honest Popovich is. It's just so great. It's so great. Kay Yeti has joined us at 10 o'clock as opposed to 11 o'clock. Slow night, buddy. What's going on over there? I'm glad you came by. Glad you came by. I will say this about Wemby. Looks very, very raw. You can see the talent, but he's very tall and very thin. He's like a rail, and he has to learn some fundamentals of basketball, like when to jump for a rebound. You know, his defensive positioning. There were too many times he wasn't paying attention to a Nick driving the lane. All right, so I think he definitely has talent, but he has a long way to go. But he's got a great coach to help show him the way. 5 Knicks in double figures in this game. Randall, I told you, 23 points, 16 rebounds. Here's another thing. The Knicks turned the ball over only 2 times tonight. That is fantastic. They were averaging 15 turnovers per game. Tonight, only 2. I like that. I like it a lot. All right, that's it for some 3 and out. Let's get on to what we're all here to talk about. I'm sure many of us are here to talk about what the team that has a lot of us rather aggravated right now. You know their name. I can't even pump my fist. I'm still so disgusted from 48 hours ago. It was one of those games, guys. I mean, I screamed about it that night. But even like 45 minutes into the game, I was wishing I could fast forward my life 2 hours so that I could just skip the rest of it. You just knew it was not their night. But we're going to start with something positive. Why don't we start with the positivity? Okay, so let's do this. You know it's going to be for the last time. The number of days since the opposing defense has been called for roughing the passer against the Jets offense. The streak is over at 686 days. That's right. I put Undertaker guy. The reaction from when Brock Lesnar broke the Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania, took the Undertaker streak to 21 and ended it at 21-1. And the end of this streak was almost as shocking that I had to put Undertaker guy back up on the slide. Just the pure shock of it. But it has actually happened. It has happened, so you will never need to see this slide again. I'm happy to say. Let's talk about some DVOA. I started doing that last week, and I figured it was something that could help us that we're going to keep doing every single week. So defensive adjusted value over average. And so, of course, we're not just looking at how the team is performing, but how they're performing in certain situations. How well did you do on the play considering your opponent and considering the situation? So let's take a look at those numbers. So the Jets still 29th on offense, amazingly enough. They did not change, did not go up, they did not go down. The defense somehow went down to 7th, down 1 spot, which is pretty hard to believe, but they did. I think it was Pittsburgh who passed them in the rankings. Special teams, they're still number 1 overall, despite that just horrific punt return touchdown they allowed. They did not go down at all. Overall, they are 20th in DVOA, down 1 position spot there. All right, so that's it as far as DVOA goes. And you have to, at this point, you have to wonder. It's like, really, the offense didn't go down, the special teams didn't go down, and the defense didn't go up. So, yeah, some of that was a little bit surprising to me. All right. Injuries, I guess another good thing that came out of the game, you really didn't have any serious injuries that came out of it. It seems like if the Jets are going to win a game, you pretty much, it's like, what player's limb are we going to have to sacrifice on the way? What Achilles tendon, what ACL, what ankle, what shoulder, what elbow will be buried 6 feet under the MetLife Stadium turf? What is going to happen? Greg Rallo making a point. Jets need to activate Simeon. And good job, Greg. He spelled it right. That's a pretty tricky name to spell sometimes, and have him ready at the half. Oh, I got some thoughts on that. Greg, I'm just going to say this. I'm not here to argue with you on it. I'm not here to argue with it. But we're going to talk about what Robert Saleh said about that and look just a little bit deeper. We're not going to take what the man says on the surface. No. We're going to break it down, and we're going to go deep with this. Okay? Greg Rallo, exactly. Billy Turnstiles is hurt. Yes. I think that's the one nickname that I think I actually did come up with. It was Billy Turnstiles. I came up with that quite quickly. It's a broken finger. When Robert Saleh says that an injury is a concern, he's pretty much done. If Saleh says it's a concern, forget it. You can just count on IR. And to me, this is pretty much addition by subtraction. Okay, how bad was it? Well, let's talk about snap count. You know what? I'm going to come back to the snap counts. Let's go. I'm going to change my mind. We're going to change this on the fly. We're going to look at the pressure stats. Billy Turnstiles himself allowed 9 pressures and 3 sacks in this game. Why it made sense to put him at tackle and Mitchell at guard, I don't know. But my God, can you imagine this week if Billy Turner is trying to block Max Crosby, 9.5 sacks to his name? Oh my God, he will run Turner over and stuff a cigar down his mouth on the way back to the huddle. I cannot bear the thought of watching Billy Turner try to block Max Crosby this week. Laken Tomlinson, I think he had his worst game of the season for sure. 7 pressures, 2 sacks, 1 quarterback hit. Mekhi Becton, 5 pressures, 1 sack. Max Mitchell, 4 pressures, 1 sack. Joe Tippmann, 2 pressures only. So the pressure really came from the outside, and it was just a mess. It was an absolute mess for this entire offensive line. Oh my gosh, it was, boy, it was just so frustrating. All right, let's go back to the snap counts here. I wanted to get the offensive line out of the way. So the offense, here's one thing that was really different from last week against the Giants. So I decided not just to put in the snap counts here, but I put in how many snaps compared to last week so we could get a little bit of a feel for how it was the previous week, just to put everything in context, because context is king. So the Jets had 81 snaps on offense in this game, 17 more than they had against the Giants the prior week. Breece Hall, 49 snaps. That's 8 up from last week. Michael Carter with 25. He was up 10. Dalvin Cook actually went down 1. Dalvin Cook only had 7 snaps. It seems like, does it seem like Dalvin Cook just gets, he's there for maybe 2 drives, and that's essentially it. He'll get like 3 snaps, 2 drives, and that's the end of his night. Nick Bawden, only 3 snaps. That bothers me. He was down 2 snaps. I don't understand why he doesn't get used to help out this running game. I still think that he has a role in this offense where he could really, really help. But Hackett does not seem to agree. I don't understand it, but he just doesn't see it. Tight end, Ty Conklin, 50 snaps, up 6. CJ Uzomah, 28. He went down 2. Jeremy Rucker, 23, minus 4. So a lot less usage of tight ends in this particular game. Then at wide receiver, you had Garrett Wilson, 79 snaps, up 22, played nearly every snap. Allen Lazard and I'm getting Allen Lazard in a little bit. 72 snaps, up 20. Malik Taylor, 18 snaps, he went down 5. Xavier Gibson, 41 snaps in this game. He was up 31 snaps. Xavier Gibson had a huge role. And, caught a number of passes in the game I thought looked pretty decent. And then you had Irv Charles in with 2 snaps as well, where he didn't play offense the prior week. So you can definitely see the difference. Gibson definitely got the bulk of the reps in this game. And, I can't say he's ready to play wide receiver 2 over Lazard. But, Gibson, I believe he definitely has better speed. And who knows, his hands might be more reliable at this point as well. Offensive line, nothing to say. All 5 offensive linemen played the entire time, so all 81 snaps, which is good. So yeah, let's get out of the slide for a little bit. So I want to go through some news and notes on this offense and just talk about a couple of things in this game. You got to factor in this team was going against the defense, allowing 391 yards per game. That's the second worst in the NFL, and allowing 5.9 yards per play, third worst in the NFL. And Zach Wilson, for all the crap we want to give Wilson. Now, it seems like you're either killing Wilson or you're killing the offensive coordinator. It seems like those are the 2 main camps. But here's one thing I will say about Zach Wilson. Even on his pressure dropbacks, when he was pressured, he had an average of 3.76 seconds to throw. That is a long time to throw the football. So going back to those pressure numbers with the offensive line, I know they look terrible. But when your quarterback is holding the ball, and one of the reasons he's holding the ball is because nobody can get open, everything is falling apart at the same time. Because if we had another receiver who could gain a little separation besides Garrett Wilson, maybe Zach gets rid of the ball a little bit faster, and maybe the offensive line isn't getting blamed for these pressures, these quarterback hits, and these sacks. And maybe Zach's not fumbling the freaking football as often as he is now. So it all works together. It's all a circuit. You can't, as one works, the other works better. That's what I personally believe. I mean, does Zach have to get the ball out of his hands faster? Absolutely. But these receivers are not great at gaining separation. And then that goes to the offensive coordinator because he has to come up with a way to get these receivers in space, to get them open, so where they're not running in each other's way. That is on the offensive coordinator. It is on him to do, and also not just Nathaniel Hackett, but Todd Downing too, in my opinion. Todd Downing is a passing game coordinator. How much say does he have versus what Hackett says? Because what's happening right now couldn't be failing more. You know what the Jets' just offensive performance of the game was on Monday? It was Aaron Rodgers' pre-snap passes, where he was throwing the ball 50 yards down the field on two-step drops. That's as good as it got all night. It is absolutely amazing. Do you realize the Jets have not had a touchdown drive of more than one play since the game against Kansas City? I don't think they have. They've had 3 offensive touchdowns, I believe, since that time, and everyone has been on the first play. Whether it's Brees running in the end zone against Philadelphia, where the defense let him score, the 2 different pass plays to Brees Hall. They have not been able to put a drive together of more than 2 plays for a touchdown in, I think, 7 weeks. 8 offensive touchdowns in 8 games. That is not just bad. It is rancid. It is rancid. David D, thanks for the $2 super chat. Maybe Zach Wilson could play for the Mets. What position would he play exactly? What position would Zach Wilson play? I wouldn't even trust him to be a bat boy at this point, man. I don't know what role Zach Wilson can have. I really don't know. But it is so bad with this offense. There are multiple players in the NFL who have more offensive touchdowns than the Jets do as a team. Raheem Mostert and Christian McCaffrey both have 9 touchdowns on offense this year. Both have more touchdowns than the Jets do. And the season's halfway over at this point. How is that even possible in today's NFL, which emphasizes offense and calls games to help the offense in any way they can? I mean, it is terrible. Watching this team, I'm actually reminded. You know what I really realized? How great Aaron Rodgers is as a quarterback. How great he always was. And I'll tell you why. Because we're seeing with some of these players who have come along from Green Bay, he has made horrible players actually look NFL worthy. And there is no more glaring example of this than Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard. How about this guy, huh? 5 drops this year. He has 4 penalties on the team this year. That's the second highest. How do you have a wide receiver having the second most penalties on your team? How is that? He's a wide receiver. I talked about it on Monday night after the game in one of the key plays. Allen Lazard can't get set. He's in motion. He can't get set. He doesn't get set in time for the snap. Part of that could be on Zach as well. I understand that. But Lazard wasn't set. And on that play, Brees Hall's 14-yard run gets wiped out because of a stupid lack of focus, lack of discipline penalty. Lazard is 28 years old. He's not 18. He didn't just come out of frickin' Sam Houston State as a freshman or McNeese State or some random school like that. This guy's been in the league for 6-7 years. Did you leave your brain in Green Bay, Allen? Too much old Milwaukee? Is that what we're doing? 5 drops, 4 penalties, 1 touchdown, and this guy, of any wide receiver on the free agent market, this guy got the most guaranteed money. 4 years, $44 million, half of it, $22 million of it, guaranteed. And there are ones who have been just as bad as him, and like Juju Smith-Schuster. I never wanted any part of him, and he's been terrible for the Patriots. It was a weak wide receiver class. But here's the thing. People can rip Joe Douglas all they want. You can say he's built a bad off. He built an offense that was supposed to be tailored to Aaron Rodgers. He basically let Aaron Rodgers be the assistant GM as far as the offense goes. That's what he was doing. So what we did, we downgraded players at certain positions, but most of all wide receiver, assuming Aaron Rodgers would lift everybody up, which he was more than capable of doing. But you had Corey Davis and Elijah Moore. I'm not saying the best wide receivers in the world, but we've seen them be productive at various points in their NFL careers. They have been productive, and they get replaced by Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb and the ghost of McCole Hardman. Rodgers went out. That was it. There was nothing. There was nothing left because those players came here expecting to be playing with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and instead, it is a player who is on his way to being one of the biggest draft busts that we have ever seen. You've got to be kidding me. Billy Turner. Oh my God. Billy Turnstiles himself. Just looking at this guy, I don't even want to look at him. He looks like he barely looks like he's big enough to be a tight end, let alone an offensive lineman in the NFL. It's like Elijah Vera Tucker got put in the dryer, and out came Billy Turner. You got to be kidding me. Now, I don't know if Roger Saffold's going to be ready this week. It doesn't look like he will. And put it this way, as much as I don't want to move Mekhi Becton around, I'm at the point where it is that desperate that if the Jets feel Max Mitchell can play guard, if he can fill in a guard, and if the best way to use these tackles is Becton on the right and Brown on the left, you know what? Do what you have to do. I can't even argue it anymore. It's not that I love it, but if Brown is healthy, if he's good, I'm game with it. And I did not think I would say that just a couple of weeks ago. But after what we've seen in these last couple of games, this offensive line has to get its act together, or Wilson's going to look the same that he has looked. Breece Hall is not going to be able to run the football, which he has not been able to do the last 2 weeks. These receivers are still going to look as bad as they have. It all starts up front with the offensive line, guys. It all starts there. Now, on to the coaching. I got a few things to say about this coaching staff as well. Guys, here's the comparison I'm going to give you. Nathaniel Hackett is to Aaron Rodgers what Adam Gase was to Peyton Manning. That's right. Nathaniel Hackett is to Aaron Rodgers what Adam Gase was to Peyton Manning. Adam Gase, the quarterback whisperer, he just made a really good cup of coffee for Peyton Manning. He carried Peyton's luggage anywhere he needed to. He probably still does it now for the Manning cast. He's a little more cream, Peyton. A little more sugar, Peyton? Where would you like it, Peyton? Which cup would you like, Peyton? That's about as useful as Nathaniel Hackett is in this league for Aaron Rodgers. The great quarterback likes him, therefore he still has a job. Nathaniel Hackett, it makes me sick to say this. Sean Payton may have been right. He may have been right. I know that Hackett is not in a situation that he expected. He did not expect to have to work with Zach Wilson. He did not expect having to adjust the entire offense on the fly just at the 4 snaps into the season. He wasn't counting on it. But he's not a schemer. I don't know what he is, but Nathaniel Hackett, he is as bad as his father was, if not worse. He's worse. And I've told you, Paul Hackett was the first coordinator I ever saw who I got legitimately angry at, who I learned to loathe. I hated the 3 yards and a cloud of dust offense when this team had Vinny Testaverde and Chad Pennington, a quarterback, and you had some legitimate receivers like Lavernius Coles, Wayne Krebet, different guys like that. Oh, my gosh. And you actually had some decent players, and they would just throw these little dink and dunk passes, and he wouldn't play to the strengths of his players. And I feel like Nathaniel does the same thing. He's like, this is the system we had for Aaron Rodgers. Zach, you go and operate this multi-level. Zach can't add 1 + 1, and this coordinator wants him to do calculus equations. Are you kidding? Go out on 3rd and 1, 5 wide shotgun, look off this read, this read, this read, this read. Zach can't get past the second read without his brain spinning around in his head like the Exorcist. Come on! You know what? On behalf of Jets fans, you know what? Mike LaFleur, I apologize. Mike LaFleur, I didn't know. It's not your fault, Mike. It wasn't your fault. Just as a peace offering, you know what? I'm going to go out tomorrow. I'm going to put some salmon. I'm going to cook up some salmon. I'm going to burn it on purpose. And I'm going to offer that up to you as my peace offering. How about that, Mike? It wasn't your fault. This offense, they're not close to anything. We hear about they're close. The offense is close. Yeah, the offense isn't close. They have arrived. This offense has arrived at the absolute most impossible offense to watch in the NFL. The quarterback, the offensive coordinator, the offensive line, and half the skill position players stink. They stink. And I'm going to go back to what we saw a little bit earlier in the chat. The comment that I saw about Trevor Siemian, absolutely. Trevor Siemian has got to be on the active roster this Sunday. I know Robert Saleh said he wouldn't be called up at this time. And you know what, guys? That is the key phrase, at this time. I'm fine with him saying that because you know why? Saleh never said that Trevor Siemian would not be called up this week. He didn't say that. He just said he's not going to be activated as of this time. But we know, we've seen it. Every time another quarterback comes into the Jets, comes into this offense, the offense performs better. Mike White, Joe Flacco, even Chris Streveler. So I don't know where Tony Alexio is, but if he is, I know he'd appreciate it. Chris Streveler, who may have had the least amount of strength I've ever seen an arm from an NFL quarterback, less than Tim Tebow, less than Nathan Peterman, just no strength whatsoever. He at least was able to get the offense to move the ball down the team to move down the field a little bit. So we never see real changes in personnel aside from the injuries. We talk about the snap counts, and you can see not a lot is changing. The same players are causing the same problems. And where has it all gotten us this year? 16.5 points per game. That's 30th in the NFL. 272 yards per game. That's 31st in the NFL. The absolute worst third down conversion rate in the NFL as long as it's been tracked, and that goes back to 1978. That's right. At 22%, the Jets have made 22% of their third downs. That is the worst mark in the NFL in 45 years. And now, Jets mess. You're reading my mind exactly. This is where I address Robert Saleh. Coach Saleh, I've been feeling better and better about you, amongst all criticism from Jets fans. But I've got to say this, okay? Stop insulting our intelligence and stop telling us this offense is so close. Stop standing out there in your black Hollywood Hulk Hogan spray-on painted-looking beard. And how about you actually, every time Robert Saleh, the camera goes to Robert Saleh when something goes wrong, he's just standing there, arms folded, looking straight at the camera. No emotion whatsoever. We'll see him show some energy against the referee. We'll see him celebrate with his guys. We'll see him do the fist with Quincy Williams after Quincy makes a big play. But when something goes wrong, it's like he didn't see it coming. He doesn't know what to do. He ain't got nothing to say. And I'm not asking him to rip his players publicly. I know that's not his deal. I don't need him ripping any player to the media. I don't care about that. All right? I'm not asking for that. But what I am asking for is tell me that you're tired of what you're watching. Okay? Tell me you're tired of what you're seeing. Tell me that what you're watching is unacceptable from this offense. That this is not an NFL caliber offense right now. Tell us changes are coming. Tell us you're going to hold somebody accountable. Give some different players some opportunities. I know players like Dalvin Cook have seen their snap counts cut. I get it. That's all well and good. But still, we don't see targets to the tight ends. Ty Conklin gets 2 to 3 targets a game, and he may be the second best receiver on this team right now. That may not be saying much, but, Malik Taylor played 23 snaps last week. He got maybe 1 target. With his speed, you're telling me you can't find a way to get him in space a little bit? Get him set up on a screen pass, an end around, something to get him in a little bit of open space? We were excited about keeping all these young wide receivers, Brownlee, Charles, Taylor, all these guys. And they have done Gibson finally doing something outside. He's had the punt return great. Every time, I got to be honest, though, every time Xavier Gibson's lined up to catch a punt, I get nervous. I'm still not over the 2 fumbles he had. I think it was against Denver. So he showed a little bit more. I don't know if he's going to work his way up to being a starting receiver. I don't know if he's that. But my goodness. I mean, when something goes wrong, I want to see this coach say something to the quarterback. I don't need to see Zach Wilson just looking down with the headband on, sitting back in his chair, not on the phone with anybody, not looking at a clipboard, not looking at video, no teammates around him, no nothing. Nothing. All right, so do something. Go up to him, encourage him, support him, whack him on the side of the helmet, do something, but stop looking like a freaking corpse when something goes wrong. Because 5 minutes into this game, any Jets fan, let's be honest, whether we wanted to admit it or not, we knew deep down it was not our night. Now when you have your special teams, which has been aces all world all year, give up that punt return touchdown on the first opportunity. Not when your best offensive player or second best offensive player, take your pick, fumbles the ball in opposing territory. We knew it was not our night. But this time the coaching staff could not rally the team. They've been doing it with smoke and mirrors for the last month, and God bless them. Other teams made mistakes. The Jets took advantage of it. They won the games. No style points in the NFL. But the way they were winning was not sustainable, and eventually the offense had to start taking a step up, and they took several steps backward on national TV to the point, guys, I don't know if any of you guys watched any of the CMA awards tonight. I'm a country music fan, but I don't watch these award shows. To me, they're garbage. Plus, I hate where country music has gone in recent years. That's another story. But you got Luke Bryan, one of the proponents of bro country. I can't stand him. And Peyton Manning co-hosting the awards. Okay? And in the this is the CMA Awards. And Manning asks Luke Bryan, hey, Luke, do you know the difference between Taylor Swift and New York Jets? And Luke Bryan goes, that Taylor Swift can sell out a stadium? We are still a joke. Even though we're 500, even though we had a 3-game win streak, even though we beat a team that were their only losses to us, the only one-loss team left in the league was to the New York Jets, we are still a laughing stock. And the fact, we may know better. We know what the defense is. We know what the special teams are, right? But the perception around the world is that we are still a joke. We are still a punchline. They didn't do this to the Arizona Cardinals. They didn't do this to the Carolina Panthers. They took the shot at the Jets. And I don't know what it's ever going to take, but I guarantee you, if the Jets played better, if the Jets had a good competitive game on Monday night on national TV, that joke does not get made by Peyton Manning. Unbelievable. I'm just sitting down there watching the Knicks, just finishing up some chicken wings, and I see the Jets responding, and I'm like, oh my God. That just really pissed me off. And this is why I take these losses so hard. This is why I take this shit personally, guys. I really do. I was literally screaming in the fourth quarter when Zach went down for the 7th time or the 8th time. Because how much more of this can we take? I know they're coming off a 3-game win streak. All I wanted this year was the playoffs after Rodgers went down. 13 years almost now, no playoffs. It's enough. I want to get back into the playoffs. In previous years, my goal was you go to the playoff scenario generator on ESPN or Yahoo, right? By week 13, I just want a scenario where the Jets could be in. That would be a goal. This year, I want in. And the truth of the matter is, guys, I think that the best chance to do that is through the division, but they blew a big opportunity. They win that game, they are right there. And now this game, I would say it's a must-win against the Raiders. Jets mess, 1 loss away from the season being over and the team quitting. I don't know about the team quitting. This team does battle for Robert Saleh. I don't know if they're going to do that, but I will say this. Eventually, the defense will get discouraged if the offense can't start to carry a little bit of water. Right now, the water that the offense is carrying is a paper cup with holes in the bottom. But I don't want to assume that the team's already going to quit. I don't want to go there. Gibson should be a starting receiver. You know, if his hands are a little bit more reliable, then I think he can work his way up to that. I'm not quite ready to say that yet, but continue to increase his snaps. Let's see what he could do. Arlen Abraham knows classic country is much better. Yeah, I like that 80s, 90s time frame. That's kind of my thing, but yeah, I like the older stuff too. XM radio has cursed me because I have every country station preset pretty much. Jets mess. I want to see you do the boot and scoot and boogie. It takes a lot of alcohol for me to get comfortable dancing. Get down, go to town, boot, scoot, boogie. Yeah, it's a little bit late. My voice is a little tired, but yeah, I'm definitely a country fan, but I hate where country music has gone. I feel the same way about basketball, about a number of, maybe I'm getting to be the old guy. In my day, back in the day of basketball, you could actually play defense. And in the NFL, we could actually tackle and not get thrown out of the league. So. Hey, Devils fan, how you doing tonight? Devils fan 06. Our offense got to start pulling their weight. They do. And right now, they can't even pull a freaking kettlebell. It's just so annoying. And again, yeah, Robert Saleh, stop pleading the fifth in these press conferences. Have some guts. We know this offense stinks. Acknowledge the changes need to be made, and you need that, and admit that what you've been doing, what this offense has been doing, is not working. This team wants honesty. We want honesty. Give the play calling duties to Todd Downing for all I care. I'm not expecting you to take over because you're a defensive coach. I get that. I'm not expecting you to know when to run, when to pass, when to put out 4 wide receivers, when to put out 3 tight ends. I'm not asking for that. But eventually, it gets to the point when Hackett doesn't make the changes he needs to make. Eventually, walk into his office and say, hey, Nathaniel, shove it you know where. And like I said earlier, Sean Payton may have been right. Only for Super Chats. Yeah, there's certain songs I can sing pretty well, but as a general rule of thumb, it depends on the song. But oh my gosh! So yeah, we had to come on and rant for a little while about the situation with the about where this offense is. But let's go over to the defense. I want to talk about their snap counts a little bit. Only 58 snaps the defense had, down 17 from last week. It is amazing. I mean, the Jets dominated total plays, yards, time of possession, all those stats that they really controlled. It was really turnovers and the penalties that really screwed them over in this game. Really was. But Jermaine Johnson, he actually had the most snaps out of any defensive lineman, 42. That's down 13. Quinn Williams had 41. He was down 17. JFM, and how good was John Franklin Myers in this game? He was fantastic. I mean, he was knocking multiple passes. John Franklin Myers finished this game with 8 quarterback pressures, 1 sack, 4 quarterback hits, and 2 pass deflections. JFM was a man possessed in this game. Knocked those 2 balls up in the air. Of course, there's no Jet in possession. I guarantee you right now, if it was the Baltimore Ravens doing that, a team like that, if it was the San Francisco 49ers, they'd have been right there in position. I guarantee it. Quentin Jefferson, his workload percentage-wise went up 34 snaps. That was only down 5. Solomon Thomas played 18, down 15 snaps. Bryce Huff played 28 snaps. That's the same number as last week, but he played a much higher percentage, which makes sense because, of course, the New York Giants, as we know, basically decided to run the ball pretty much the entire second half and during overtime. Bryce Huff still had a wonderful game. Michael Clemens, 19 snaps, down 9. Will McDonald played 8 snaps again, same as before. Tanzel Smart sees his first action of the season, 10 snaps, and this was his first game of the season. Linebacker C.J. Mosley plays all 58 snaps. Quincy Williams misses just 2, same as the week before. Jamian Sherwood back in the mix. He had 4 snaps. He did not play last week. And then Sam Aguavoen, 2 snaps. Cornerback, pretty straightforward. Sauce Reed had 56 snaps. Michael Carter played 41, down 20. And Brandon Eccles played just 2. And then at safety, Jordan Whitehead played all 58. Tony Adams played 56. Ashton Davis up 2 snaps, and Adrian Amos was -3. So a couple things with this. You can really see, I guess one of the big things, you knew the defensive line rotation would change up a little bit, but I am interested that Johnson, I know it was only one more snap, but he played a lot more. Quentin Jefferson, his snaps had to go up quite a bit as well. Will McDonald, it's weird with Will McDonald. Like, how often do you really notice him on the field? I feel like I don't. Like when I hear he has 8 to 10 snaps, it's like he did. I feel like I notice him once, maybe twice a game, and that's really about it. Maybe it's because my eyes are so focused on looking for JJ or looking for Bryce Huff, but I didn't really notice McDonald in Monday's game at all. So, all right, I think that's about enough for the snap counts tonight. A couple of news and notes on the defense in this game. They did allow the one knock on the defense I have to put on. They allowed 7 of 16 third downs to be converted by the Chargers. That's the only knock I have on them. And we know 13 of the 27 points allowed. That was on only that was on the defense, because you have the punt return touchdown, and then you had the one touchdown that the Chargers scored from the 2-yard line after the last Zach Wilson fumble. But a couple other stats on this game. JJ, great job. 9 pressures, 3 quarterback hits. Fantastic. Bryce Huff, 7 pressures, 4 quarterback hits, 1.5 sacks. Quentin Williams, who's been under a little bit of fire this week, he had 6 quarterback pressures too. Just because he doesn't have the sacks doesn't mean that he's not making a difference. He is. And Reed and Sauce, fantastic. They combined to give up just 23 yards on Monday with 2 pass breakups, both of them by Sauce. The defense played a very, very good game. The problem is very, very good just isn't enough anymore. If they don't take the ball away, the Jets are not going to win when they play an offense that resembles anything near NFL caliber. I know the Giants game was the exception, and again, that was not an NFL caliber offense that they played in that game. All right, a couple of other notes. Actually, you know what? We're going to go on. Let's take a look ahead at the Raiders a little bit. So let's pull up 5 key stats about the Raiders, about the silver and black. There's a new feature that we started to do last week with the Chargers game. I don't know. Maybe if the Jets lose this week, it'll be bad karma, and I'll need to put it away, right? Yep, so we got the black and silver on the board. So let's look at a couple of stats. So Max Crosby tied for second in the NFL with 9.5 sacks, and he's also first in the NFL with 10 tackles for a loss. So as the Jets faced the big challenge last week in Bosa and Mack, and they failed that challenge. Joey Bosa ran havoc all over them last week. That cannot happen this time against Max Crosby. Crosby, I think, has missed 2 defensive snaps all year. Crosby never comes off the field. So if they move Crosby around, you got to figure they're going to put him on that right side of the Jets offensive line and see if they can handle him. And you know what? If that means you put an extra blocker in place, if you put that extra tight end down there, the extra fullback in there to keep Crosby contained, you do that, because let's be honest, there's not another player on this defense that scares you. Not a single one of them. You have to contain Max Crosby. You cannot let him be the one to beat you. Now, with rushing yards, the rushing defense, the Raiders are allowing 138.7 rushing yards per game. I believe that's third worst in the NFL. So unlike last week, where the Jets faced a very good run defense, this one is struggling. So, you know what? I'm going to maybe Dalvin Cook actually has a decent run somewhere in this game. I don't know. But I definitely think Brees is going to have a great opportunity to bust a big play. I really do. Raiders, they're -6 in turnovers. Last week, the Chargers were +6 in turnovers. Raiders have the 3rd worst turnover differential in the league. They have thrown the most interceptions of any team in the NFL, by the way. Now, of course, they play 3 different quarterbacks, but again, they are very prone to turning the ball over. Now, one of the big differences that we've seen, this is point number 4 with Antonio Pierce, there was a renewed emphasis on running the ball. All right? They ran 58% of the time against the Giants, and you can see why. They're starting Aiden O'Connell, a rookie running back, a rookie quarterback, and we know about the exotic blitzes of the Giants and how dangerous they are. So Pierce wanted to put the ball in the hands of Josh Jacobs. So they gave the ball to him. And in their first, I believe the first 7 or 8 games, the Raiders ran only 36% of the time. So a renewed focus on the run game is what has started, and I expect to see more of that on Sunday night. And Josh Jacobs, how about this? Josh Jacobs has 159 of the Raiders' rushing attempts. Now, the Raiders have attempted 188 runs this year. I'm leaving out the quarterbacks because that's different, okay? So 159 out of 188 rushing attempts, that is 85%. So Josh Jacobs is their run game, and he is going to have a big game for the Raiders to defeat the Jets on Sunday night. So those are 5 early stats on the Raiders. And of course, I will be doing my game preview. We'll be doing that a little bit later this week, so be sure to check that out. We'll be recording that probably Friday, I would say, either Friday or first thing Saturday morning. All right, so that's a few thoughts on that. Now let's go around the AFC East a little bit. I need to make a graphic for that. Yeah, we'll do a little, I think for next week, I'll make a little Buffalo, Miami, New England mashup or something like that. All right, but let's talk about, hey, the Jets can still win this division. Not out of it yet, but let's talk about these other teams. Buffalo, they came off a bad loss to Cincinnati, 24-18. Here's the thing with the Bills. The Bills on that first drive, when they looked as good as they've ever looked, averaged 12 yards per play on that first drive. After that, 4 straight drives, none of which lasted 5 yards or more than 5 yards. James Cook did nothing in this game, 3.3 yards per carry on just 6 carries. And guys, I'm going to give you a pretty cool trivia stat, okay? Here, you want some trivia? I'll give you some trivia. Dalton Kincaid, their tight end, had 10 receptions for 81 yards on 11 targets. He is the first rookie tight end to have 10 or more receptions in a game since who? This isn't the actual trivia question tonight, but yeah, let's get a little engagement going down here right now. Again, reminder, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. But yeah, so Dalton Kincaid had 10 catches in the game. Who was the last rookie tight end to do that? Let's see your reactions in the comments. You might actually know who this is. So, but while we're looking, yeah, but while I'm asking that question, Josh Allen tied for the most interceptions in the league. He has 9 turnovers this year, and the defense is what's pretty amazing to me. So after leading the league in takeaways in the first 4 weeks, the Bills had 11 takeaways. They now have 3 since week 5 and 0 in the last 2 games. In the first 4 weeks, they were allowing just 288 yards per game through week 4. Since week 5, they're allowing 371 yards per game, 83 more yards per game. That defense is falling apart. We got the great John Nolte here. Welcome, my friend. He thinks the answer is Rob Gronkowski. No, it is not Rob Gronkowski. No, it's not him. So yeah, I don't have that one on the screen, but yeah, the who is the last besides Kincaid? Who is the last tight end rookie to catch 10 passes or more in one game? So that's our initial question for the night. So this week the Bills have Denver on Monday Night Football at home. That is a game they really, really need to win. After that, they've got the Jets at Philadelphia, at Kansas City, home against Dallas, at San Diego. I said it, I don't care. Home against New England and at Miami. This is without a doubt probably the I would say the least challenging game left on their schedule. Maybe New England, but that is a division game, so you can't even count that one, really. But we got a couple other guesses. Was it George Kittle? No. Tony Gonzalez? You guys are listening to some great names here. Antonio Gates? No, wasn't him either. This guy is not quite on that level. And I will say this, you know who he is. I'm actually, you know what? I'm going to do it this way. I'm actually going to type the answer right down here in the chat. I swear to you guys, I promise you, I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. It's Jay Samaro. I know. Jay Samaro had 10 catches in the game for the Jets as a rookie in one game. Is that shocking? I know. Who would believe that? If without clues, we could have been here all night. And a lot of us didn't even think Jay Samaro had 10 catches as a Jet in his career, right? But it is true. It is absolutely true. Yeah. I like Zach Rosenberg, 2025 lacrosse goalie. Nice. I like that. Mark Bavaro, definitely one of the best. I will say, the Jets might be getting sort of a Mark Bavaro, I don't want to say knockoff, but a poor man's Mark Bavaro and Michael Mayer. Notre Dame tight end. hadn't done a whole lot here, but that was a player the Jets really, really liked in the draft this season. I think Mayer's going to be one of those guys who just keeps getting better as time goes on. May have thought it may have been Kyle Brady. Yep. So, but yeah, it was actually Jason Morrow. As far as the Miami Dolphins go, well, we watched them lose 21-14 to the Chiefs. They are 0-3 against winning teams, and now that losing against a winning team, that stat is gaining more and more traction by the week. Now, all of a sudden, everybody knows about it. I will say this. I thought the Miami defense played really, really well, holding Mahomes to just 21 points. They got 11 quarterback pressures on Patrick Mahomes. For the third straight game, they forced a turnover, but their offensive line, guys, it remains in trouble. We talked about this last week. You know, Rob Hunt was out, their starting guard. Then they're filling Robert Jones goes out with a knee injury. He had to be carted to the locker room. But you know what? You got to give the line credit. They're making it work together somehow. They're pulling it all together. Tua has been sacked on just 4.3% of his dropbacks this season. That's a career low. And as long as they keep Tua healthy, they're going to have a very dynamic offense. And here's the other thing about Miami. This is the stat about Miami. It just drives you nuts. The offense in Miami, they have scored touchdowns on 75% of their red zone possessions. 75% of them. With the Jets, it feels like 7.5. It's just so frustrating. So next week, they're going to have the Raiders Sunday at 1. Actually, pardon me about that one. Pardon me. No, they're actually on a bye. Yeah, I think Miami. Did Miami have the? Yeah, Miami has the bye this week, right? Yeah, week 10. Yeah, I think Miami's on a bye. Just checking for a moment. I know. Yeah, I'm positive it's week 10. Yeah. Their next game is against the Raiders, and that's Sunday, November 19th. Okay, so yeah, they're off this week. Their next game is against the Raiders on the 19th. Okay. And then the New England Patriots, bringing up the rear. And how nice is it to say that? They lose to the Commandskins 20-17, and their offense ranks 31st in points per game, just 15 points. Bill O'Brien, no, he has not turned this offense around. And the reasons for that, there's many of them. Injuries on the offensive line, inconsistent play on the line, not a whole lot of talent among the receivers. Matt Jones just keeps turning the ball over at the worst possible. It's not that he turns the ball over a lot, but he tends to do it at the worst possible times in the worst situations. But hey, they won the turnover battle this past Sunday, still didn't win. But the amazing thing to me is this Patriots defense. Now, I know they're missing Matthew Judon. I know they're missing Christian Gonzalez. But Sam Howell threw for 325 yards against this secondary. That is crazy. That is crazy to me. But I got to be honest with you. Deep down, I hope New England wins a couple of more games. A couple more games. You know why? Because I don't need to see them drafted first overall this year. I don't need to see them drafting Caleb Williams next spring. Okay? I don't want that. So let Caleb go to one of the NFC teams. As long as it's not the Giants. That's what I'm hoping for there. All right. And next week, New England will play Indianapolis Sunday, 9:30 in Germany. That's going to be an interesting game. You know, New England has never lost a game in Europe. They're 3-0 playing in Europe. All right. All right, let's take a quick swig here. Yeah, but really getting back to what can the Jets do as far as their offense goes. You know, you have limited talent to begin with. It's to the point right now where I really think you need to put as much quality blocking in as you can. If you need to go with 2 tight ends the entire time or 3 tight ends some of the time, you know what, you do it. If you have to do that 80% of the time, do it because you have to create some credible blocking. And, you know, Jeremy Ruckert, he's had a few penalties this season. You know, people ask, why doesn't Ruckert play over C.J. Uzomah? You know, there's certain Jets analysts, we'll call them, who C.J. Uzomah lives rent-free in their head. It's like a 2-bedroom apartment in these analysts' head. Dalvin Cook has 1 bedroom, C.J. Uzomah has the other bedroom, right? But one thing with Uzomah, at least he doesn't commit dumb penalties, and Ruckert still has a tendency to get a false start, to grab a face mask, to do different things like that. So until he cuts that out, it's a little hard to keep trusting him 60, 70% of the plays. Otherwise, yes, I'd like him to be starting right there with Conklin. You know, but he is the best blocking tight end, so you might just have to live with that. So again, when you have lost AVT, when you've lost some of these players, when you've lost Connor McGovern, when you've lost Wes Schweitzer, then what you might have to do is sometimes load up one side of the line with Barden, with an extra tight end, and create the running holes that way. Breece Hall is very patient. He's good at waiting for the holes to open up and then getting into space. I mean, people want to talk about Abanaconda. They want Izzy to play. I know he's got speed. I know he can go. I know he's got some wheels on him, but I know this. That offensive line right now is not creating a whole lot of space. And it goes back to the same thing that we saw last year. Remember, when New England beat the Jets for the second time, they started loading up the box, taking the running game out, and daring Zach Wilson to beat them, and he could never, ever do it. And they should be doing, and they're doing the same thing now. Breece is a more dynamic running back than Bam Knight or Michael Carter and anybody like that. Ty Johnson, we understand that. But until you can, but if that's the way it's going to be, then you might need an extra run blocker or two. And then when you have those extra players there, you can actually create more options because they're seeing these extra blockers. These teams aren't expecting passes. But Downing, Hackett, Saleh, they're not seeing the potential? Is this something that only we're seeing? Because I'll tell you what, I don't need to see 5 receivers on the field ever again as long as Zach Wilson is the quarterback. Because like I said, he can't read a defense, and he's not fast enough to process everything. Harlan Abraham makes a good point. I see the Jets running over center. They should run more outside. They're using Breece Hall the same way they've been using Dalvin Cook. 2 yards, fall forward. You know what it's like? It's watching Adam Gase and Frank Gore all over again. Frank Gore, 2 yards, fall forward. 2 yards, fall forward. Just get your 20,000, Frank. That's all we care about. That's the whole mission of the season, is you getting your 20K. And I feel like that's the same thing. There's no counters. Oh yeah, there's the one exception, that third down, that little pitch to Breece that he dropped because it was so bad. And we did that on 3rd and 2 it was? Oh my God. Oh my. It's very easy to blame the coordinator when play calling isn't working, but when you aren't playing to the strengths of your players and you're putting them in positions to fail, you have to take a hit. And I'm not advocating for anybody to get fired. I'm not here to do that. As long as Aaron Rodgers is here, there are certain people who are not going anywhere. Okay? Lazard is here next year. Hackett is here next year. Guys like that, or Cobb will be back as long as he doesn't retire. It's just it's just really frustrating because you know what, we put everything in the Aaron Rodgers basket, and then when it went down, the offense was not able to counter it. And that's just really, really frustrating because we are seeing a historically good Jets defense, an absolutely fantastic defense. And at some point, though, you got to figure they're going to get discouraged. It's just human nature. It's not a knock on them. They're going to get discouraged. And Mike Westhoff talked about it. It's like the best weapon of the enemy is discouragement. Because once you get discouraged, all the other weapons start to come into play. Doubt, resentment, jealousy, all of that. It's just frustrating, guys. Really, really is. John Nolte, the offensive line stats from Monday night were some of the worst I've ever seen, particularly Turner. 10 pressures, 3 sacks allowed. Yeah, depending on the website you looked at, I've seen 9 pressures, I've seen 10 pressures. Bottom line is, Billy Turnstiles sucks. He is barely qualified to be in the XFL. He is right up there on the list of Jets linemen like Wayne Hunter, Colin Baxter, who else? Adrian Clark. I mean, you name the guy. You name the terrible Jets offensive lineman who is just completely inept. Billy Turner is right up there with any of them. Sorry that you broke your finger, Billy, but here's what I say to Billy, and I say this from my heart: take all the time you need to get better. Just make sure you're good, because I want you to have a good, long, and lasting and fruitful life with that. I don't want anything to be compromised in your future endeavors. John Nolte, hell, at this point, ask JFM if he can throw the ball. I think Randall Cobb, I think that'll be his job. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Turner's going to be on IR. I think it's that serious. Again, if Saleh says it's a concern, I mean, come on, that's code for multiple games right there, isn't it? So, all right, guys, I'll tell you what. Let's have a little bit of fun right now. It is 11:05 as we're recording this, so I think it's time to have a little fun. Let's do the official Jets trivia for the. All right, guys. So we all know the rules at this point. So I'm going to ask you a question. Going to put it on the screen. You have 5 minutes to answer the question. All right. Some weeks we've gotten the question right. Some weeks we haven't. So I feel like we've had a pretty good balance so far. So tonight we got a Jets versus Raiders question. Let's see what we can do. So the Jets played the Raiders in 2020. That is the infamous game where Lamar Jackson, not the quarterback, was trying to cover Henry Ruggs. This is before he went to jail, and deservedly so, on a zero blitz called by Greg Williams. It was the Greg Williams walk-off. There was one Jet in that game who forced 2 fumbles against the Raiders. Who is that? Who's that Jet? All right. So what Jet defensive player forced 2 fumbles against the Raiders offense in that COVID game in 2020? Greg Rallo. Billy Turnstile broke his finger picking his nose while blocking Thiemann Bosa. Yeah. I don't think he even had time to get his finger up to his nose. I think his finger was up his ass while he was lying on the ground. It was not pretty. Okay. So 2020. Let's see some guesses here. John Nolte says C.J. Mosley. Is it C.J. Mosley? I'm afraid not. No, not tonight. Hang G says Quinnen. No, it was not Quinnen Williams. Hang G. No. I will say this Jet is no longer on the team. I'll give you that. All right. So it's not CJ and it's not Quinnen. And guy, hey, I want to say while we're doing this, thanks to everybody. Your loyalty coming back every Wednesday means everything to me. I appreciate the hell out of you guys. Really, really do. Be sure to tell a friend. Please hit the like if you haven't yet. I do everything we can to get the show out to as many people as possible. Want to keep growing it, and can't do it alone. So, thanks. Hang G says Leonard Williams. Nope, it was not Leonard. John Nolte Inukwa. Did you mean Quincy Enunwa? No. It's not that much of a trick question. It's a defensive player. It's a defensive player. Okay, we're almost to the halfway mark. Right back at you, brother. Right back at you. No. Okay, I'm not Inukwa. Who did you? Maybe I'm not understanding. Did you mean somebody besides Quincy? Or Leonard being a Jet? Oh, I think that's what you're referring to. Okay, I get it, man. I get it. All right, got about 2 minutes and 15 seconds left, guys. So what do we think? And the answer is not Lamar Jackson, obviously. And it's amazing how much has changed. Jackson's drifted around the league. Henry Ruggs is now in jail after killing a woman while driving drunk. And he's out of the league, and he should be. The lineman who went to Jackson. Are you thinking about Foley? Foley Fatukasi? Is that who you meant? I think you must mean Foley. It is not Foley. Hank G says Avery Williamson. No, not Avery. I think Avery got hurt that season in preseason. I think that might have been the year he tore his ACL in the preseason and missed the year. It's a shame. He was like a good guy, really good guy, smart guy. Just he had one good year, then he started getting hurt. And yeah, he's one of those guys who he wasn't going to be a Jet until they absolutely blew him out of the water with extra money. I mean, McCagnon just went crazy. He really invested heavily in the linebacker position. It was like he didn't think he was ever going to go to the Jets. I think Indy wanted him too. Indy wanted him, but the Jets blew him out of the water with the money, and he just couldn't turn the money down. Jets mess says Jamal Adams. No, it's not Jamal. Hank G says Marcus May. By the way, how good's May looking in New Orleans right now? And that's secondary. It's looking pretty good. Greg Rallo, good show, brother. Well, thank you, Greg. I appreciate you saying that. I really try to give you guys the best show I can each week. Hank G says Jenkins. Chris Jenkins? I know that's not it. All right. David D says, Vlad Dukas. You know what? Just for that, you get the buzzer. All right. Marcus May, we're down to 30 seconds, guys. I'll give you one hint. He is a defensive back. Defensive back. Now, you've already said Jamal. You've already said Marcus. It's neither of them. So who else could it be? Yep, Zach Rosenberg said Marcus May as well. Yep, not quite. Not quite. Oh, this is Hank G with a pretty creative guess. Brian Poole. Yeah, Brian Poole, not the correct answer, but I got to say, Poole was a good Jet for 2 years. And, yep, timer just went off. And then Poole just disappeared from the league. Like, he just completely left the NFL, was never heard from again. I don't know if the guy got hurt or what happened to him, but it felt like that first year he was here, he was one of the Jets' best defensive players, really. He was a very, very pleasant surprise. David D says Buster Screen. Oh, boy, we've had some interesting guys on this. Yeah, haven't we? What was the news with Buster? I got to look that up. I know he was in trouble, too. We've had some guys, especially in the secondary, who've gotten in trouble. Rontez Miles, I mean, he got in some hot water. Yeah. Oh yeah. Here it is. Buster Screen. This is August, guys. Okay. Buster Screen arrested on multiple fraud charges in Canada. This is in August. He defrauded banks of more than $100,000 across Canada. He is facing 15 charges and was arrested at the Toronto airport. Opened bank accounts with fraudulent checks, and some of the money for the checks was allegedly obtained illegally before they cleared. And he's pulled similar scams all across Canada. So Buster Scream, way to go. Arthur Millette, not him, but Zach's got it. I don't know if he looked up the roster, but he is correct. It was Javelin Guidry who was here for another cup of coffee before he got hurt and went on IR, was released with the injury designation. I know other content creators, he was not their favorite Jet, to say the least. But yeah, Javelin Guidry forced 2 fumbles in that game against the Raiders. And I remember so well that game. Yeah, that was one of those games when we were trying to get Trevor Lawrence. And it was one of those games where you couldn't be too angry if the Jets were losing, unless you had money on that game. But after it ends, I'm just going to, it was Javelin Guidry. Just for the proof, there it is. But yeah, I remember after the game, all I could do was laugh. There were the Virginia Jets fans, and we were just laughing. It's like, of course, Greg Williams would send a zero blitz, and he would put Lamar Jackson on Henry Ruggs, who could run like frickin' Usain Bolt in his prime, right? And when they won that game, it was so hysterical. And the Jets seemed 1 week closer to Trevor Lawrence. Obviously not meant to be, but again, if they just get Trevor Lawrence, then they don't have Aaron Rodgers now. I'm trying to be fair and take a little bit of the heat off Braden Mann, just a little bit of the heat, not all of it, but a tad of it. All right, guys. Well, that's about what I've got. But if anybody wants to hang out for a little bit, if anybody has any questions or any thoughts on their mind, I'm more than happy to stay a little bit and entertain your curiosity. Oh, we got a late arrival from the great Johnny Jimenez, who is rapidly gaining fame among Jets YouTube media. Went to cut the grass in the dark on a Monday night. Did you have the headlight? Johnny, let me ask you a question. So when you go out to cut the grass, did it kind of let me see if I can let me put it this way to you. So when you were out cutting the grass, did you look like this? Did it look like that, Johnny? John, yeah. After the show, be sure to rewind a little bit because we did a little surprise trivia for you too. So a little tight end trivia that kind of came up. So be sure to get that one. That one shocked shocked the room. I will say that. Where do colors come from? God created them. There you go. I'm not quite Bill Nye the Science Guy, but yeah. Aren't you just glad we have them? We have like the Gotham green and the self black and all that good stuff. Yeah, you were in straight darkness after watching the Jets offense. It was one of those things I couldn't even bear to record that night. I had to do it the next morning. I was thinking maybe I'll be in a little bit more control if I record Tuesday morning as opposed to Monday night. Didn't work. It got to the point the last 5 minutes I had to walk off into a corner. I had to give myself a timeout. I was that mad. I was that mad at the offense. I was that mad at the coaches. I was that mad at everybody. And you know what? I was even mad at myself for believing. Not that I believed the Jets were going to beat the Chargers. I honestly didn't. I picked the Chargers in my picks to win straight up. But they got their doors blown off. The offense did. It was not an NFL offense. And I hate to keep coming back to this, but geez, when the defense kicks the butt of a very good quarterback and the entire offense the way that they did for nearly the entire game, and you still lose by 21 points? Something's wrong and something needs to change. And so far, this head coach will not do it. John, did you see Payne talking trash about the Jets tonight? You bet I did. I already addressed it. You bet I talked about it. Luke Bryan, in case you see this, that's for you. Your music sucks. Are there interstate highways in Hawaii? Yeah, but there's not a lot of out-of-state license plates. And I don't know why you drive on a parkway and park on a driveway and why a cargo goes by ship, but a shipment goes by truck. Zach, they've been keeping the stats since 1978 on the third down. So 45 years, and this is the worst. The worst. And that is hard to fathom because we have seen some bad offense. But we put in the Aaron Rodgers offense, and now we have Aaron Rodgers trying to run it. It doesn't work. I mean, it would be like, a first-time driver thinking he's going to get like a little car, and the first thing he has to drive is an 18-wheeler. That's basically what it is. Can we just say it was a trap game? The Jets aren't good enough in my mind to have any trap games. I don't even think that's fair because they were looking ahead of the Raiders. I think if anything, the Chargers played like the more desperate team. The Jets made a mistake early with the punt return, and I don't think they ever truly recovered from it. The defense played their butt off. You can't say that they didn't do their job. But I think I just think this is what the offense almost is when you have a quarterback who can't run the offense that the offensive coordinator insists on running. You have maybe 2-3 legitimate skill position players, and you have an offensive line that is in shambles. It's hard to score points. It's hard to convert third downs. It's hard to get. We talk about the Jets' red zone struggles. Guys, we're not even getting into the red zone anymore. I wish we could have red zone struggles because at least then Greg Zuerlein would have the ability to kick field goals. Geez, I want to have red zone struggles again. We're wasting Greg Zuerlein too. It's amazing. Can we get an interview with Alexis Vaughn? Oof. That would set records. Yeah, my first question. So, Alexis, just how pissed off is your husband that he gets 5 snaps every game? That'd be the first question I want. It's a trap season. I don't know. I'm not even sure what that means. I don't know. Having Mitchell back at right tackle and Newman at right guard will be better. It'd be an improvement. I mean, we don't know what Saffold is, but if he's not ready, he's not ready. I still wonder, though, if ultimately the best 5 on the field is Mitchell at guard and then putting Brown and Becton at the tackle positions. Maybe, but maybe Newman with a little bit of chance to practice with the starters, if it does come to that, maybe it could work. But better that he plays guard than he plays center. So I'm not totally against that. David D, are you making any appearance on any other content creators channels in the near future? Yeah, I'm certainly always open-minded to it. I'm open to having other folks on if they'd like to come, and open to guesting on, being on with other folks. I mean, yeah, Nick and I did a show a couple weeks ago and on a Friday, and it was my idea because we hadn't done a show in a while, and I thought it would really be fun, and it was. It was a good time, and do I miss doing those days? Of course I do. Of course I do, because we made some good content. But hey, there's as long as we're all still doing shows, you never know what might happen. You never know what might happen. There's always a chance that good things can happen. Zach, okay, your opinion, are we still relevant by the end of November? We'll have a realistic chance of making the playoffs. Here's what I really think. Our next couple of games are the Raiders, at Buffalo, Miami, and what was the next one after that? Was that Atlanta or Houston? I know Houston's in December. Yeah, I just want to see what. Yeah, I'm going to pull our schedule up real quick and check this one out. I mostly remember. Yeah. Okay, and after that comes the. Okay, so we only have 3 more games in November: at Raiders, at Bills, Dolphins. Okay, I think there is no reason we can't win 2 of those games, and if that's the case, we're 6-5. All right, but I think it is really going to take 10 wins to get into the playoffs, no matter what. Minimum 10 wins. That is the minimum. So if they are 6-4, is that what it would be? So right now they're 4-4, so that'd be 6-5. Okay, so if they're 6-5 with 6 games left, they'd have to win 4 of those next 6 in my mind to have a chance. And then you've got Atlanta, Houston, at Miami, Washington, at Cleveland, at New England. I think at Cleveland on a short week will be very difficult. I think that's a tough game, and I can't imagine they're going to win both games against Miami. I think if I'm being very real with you, I think they need to beat Buffalo. I think they need to sweep Buffalo. I think they can sweep Buffalo. I think they're very vulnerable. They need to beat Miami at least once. They have to beat New England, and they've got to beat Houston. I think they can afford to lose maybe one more AFC game, and that may be it. Yeah. So the remaining AFC games are at Raiders, at Bills, Dolphins, Texans, at Dolphins, at Browns, at Patriots. I'll give you 2 more. That's it. They can lose to Cleveland, lose to one of the Miami games. I don't think they're sweeping Miami. They can lose one, but I don't think they can afford to lose more than 2 more AFC games. If they lose to, say, the Raiders, the Texans, the Patriots, I think they're in a hole, or I think they're in a world of trouble. So you cannot lose more than 2 AFC games. That is my thought, and you got to get to at least 10 wins to have a chance at this division or at a wild card spot. Because again, everybody was so focused on the division, and I understand why. The idea of the division, it's very seducing, it's very appealing, but you have to look at everything possible. And the fact of the matter is, all these other AFC teams won. Pittsburgh won. Cincinnati won. Houston won. I think Indianapolis did they win? But the AFC, put it this way, the AFC teams are beating the NFC teams pretty much every single time. That's the bottom line. The only AFC teams that are losing are teams like Tennessee, New England, Denver, teams like that. But the AFC North, this may be the first time that 4 teams from one division make the playoffs. You can very easily make that case. It can happen. So it may really take the division. And if that's the case, you know what? You better win. I mean, what are the Jets so far in the division? They're 1-1? Yeah, they're 1-1. They better be 4-2, no worse in the division. No worse than that. All right, let's scroll back up a little bit. Quite often Zerline is the best. The kicker is the best scorer on any team. They always tend to lead the team in points. So yeah, that's he is super consistent. Sad, depressed, frustrated, teased, pretty much every negative emotion you can imagine, man. Yeah. David D, Greg Z for MVP. You look at the MVP right now, I think you would have to go, if not Zerline, Quincy Williams. I think that's what I would do. Quincy has really stepped his game up, and he has become one of the best linebackers in football, if not the best. I would put Quincy right up there. If I had to give an offensive MVP, I guess I'd have to go Breece Hall. By default, I guess. I will say this, Zach. If we don't beat Oakland on Sunday, I think our season's over. The Bills and Dolphins up next. We need to win 2 of those 3. I said after the Jets dropped to 1-3, they had to win 4 of the next 5 games, and they've won 3 of the 4. Okay, but they have got to beat the Raiders. Are a team they have to beat. It's an AFC game. Forget the national TV. That's not relevant. But these tiebreakers, head-to-head, conference record, all of this matters. They've already lost the tiebreaker to the Chargers. They can't be losing it to the Raiders also. Not when you have Aiden O'Connell in at your quarterback, okay? Not when 30 or so % of that stadium is going to be Jets fans. Let's be honest. Those tickets, my God, they're over like $200 a ticket. It's unbelievable to get a ticket for that game. Wow. And it's to watch Zach Wilson against Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. Amazing. Watch UK99 is available for all Jets comps on shows, kids parties, and office Christmas parties. I'm cheap, but I ain't free. After the second Bills game, Whitehead could be our best receiver. I don't think he's had an interception since then. Jets have been taking the ball away. I think Whitehead might have one interception since then, but yeah, he almost had one on against the Chargers, but yeah, not quite. At first we thought that Whitehead dropped the interception, but he really got to the ball the exact same time as the receiver did. So yeah, we couldn't kill him for that, even though we wanted to. Snowball is here. Wow, good to see you, man. Can we suit up Aaron and just have him read the defense for Zach and have him hop back 20 yards before the snap? Well, it seems like that's what Zach does because he's holding the ball for about 10 seconds to snap, feels like. I just don't think the offensive line can hold up long enough. But, hey, I give Rodgers credit. He does his rehab. He flies to wherever the game is, and he's there. I give him credit. I do wonder how much say Rodgers has in the play call. That's one thing I'll be interested to find out later on down the road is who really had the say in the play calling. Is it all Hackett? How much say did Rodgers have? How much say did Todd Downing have? I'm just very curious about that dynamic, about who gets to say what and who has what say, what power, what control. I'm sure they'll all be denying it. AFC North is solid. Wild card teams come from that division. Bengals, Browns, Steelers. Yep. And the Ravens are well on track to win the division. I guess the one thing you have hope in is that these teams all beat up on one another. I mean, their losses may all be to each other. So, but yeah, I mean, if Deshaun Watson can ever get going, the Browns defense, the Browns and Ravens, in my mind, those are the two best defenses in football. Take your pick. They're the best at yards per game, points per game, touchdowns allowed per game, takeaways. They're 1-2 or 2-1 everywhere you go. And the Bengals are getting better and better by the way. Isn't this the typical Bengals season, right? Slow start. They look out of it by September, then they start to turn it around, and now they're hitting the ground running. They're just hitting the ground running. Man. Yeah, and then the Steelers, the Steelers are, in my mind, are far and away the least talented team in that division, but they just find ways to win. Every single time. They don't have a very good running game. Their offensive line is pretty bad. Pickett isn't really impressing anybody. I mean, the defense has some players on it, but it's not exactly beating the doors off of folks. Yet they still find ways to win games. Credit to Mike Tomlin. So, let's see what else is on people's minds tonight. Could easily lose to Colts, Houston's Browns with this offense. Well, we don't have the Colts on the schedule, Zach. We're not playing Indianapolis. But you know what? The Jets can beat anybody. They beat Philadelphia. They almost beat Kansas City. They came a whisker away from beating Kansas City, and they beat Buffalo. So we know the league has a lot of parity. Anybody can lose to if Denver can beat Kansas City, we could beat most teams. So, because the defense will keep you in those games. So it's two sides of the same coin, really. When are we going to an 18-game regular season? I think in a couple of years. I really do. I would expect that. I don't know if I can give you an exact year. I don't know how long it would take to get this approved. But I wouldn't be surprised if by 2027, 6 or 7, I could see it then. I think it's very possible. Morstead is the MVP, not after last week. No, I think Morstead lost a couple of votes. But oh my gosh! And wasn't that just the ultimate? The Jets introduced Thomas Morstead at the stadium after being named Special Teams Player of the Week, and on his first punt, they returned it for a touchdown. So Jets. That isn't that the Jets right there. That is so Jets. It reminds me, Mike Westhoff. I don't remember the team earlier, but it was Mike Westhoff's last day. He's retiring. They introduced the special teams guys, and that in that game, the opponent returns a punt for a touchdown there too. Maybe the Jets need to stop introducing the special teams guys because they get burned every time it happens. Oh boy, but yeah, Morstead had a great day. I hope he becomes the Pro Bowl punter. That's pretty much all you really want. John Nolte, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Jets defense has to stop the other team, cause a turnover, and score for the Jets to win games. The only exception to that really is the Giants because they didn't turn the Giants over. Because they kept running the ball. Jets pulled that out by the skin of their teeth. But yeah, they have to play a great game on defense, a great game on special teams, and not turn the ball over on offense. They do those things, they can generally win. But it is really predicated on the defense giving them some short fields and gives Zerline at least a chance to kick field goals. I mean, remember, guys, I'll come back to this with the Giants game. The Jets did not run a play inside the Giants' 45-yard line until the last drive in regulation. Think about that. They did not get inside the Giants' 45 until the final drive of the fourth quarter. It is just amazing to me. It's amazing to me. It is amazing this team is 4-4 when you look at it from that perspective. Then again, you look at how good the defense is, and you can say at the same time, it's amazing the team is only 4-4. It is crazy. It is just crazy. Yes, Snowball, we're very aware. Johnny's not denying it. John, I don't think there is a rivalry I enjoy watching more in the NFL than Steelers-Ravens. Bears-Packers is always fun. Living in Chicago, I lived there for 20 years. So Bears-Packers was always a whole lot of fun. The best thing to do, I found, was to go to around like the Kenosha, Wisconsin area, that southeast part of Wisconsin, a little bit south of Milwaukee, because at that point you're about halfway between Chicago and Milwaukee, and you get a nice blend of both. And you get sort of like that. It's got a lot of German and Eastern European sort of feel going on there. So you got some good bars, is my point, right? And when it's like pretty much divided Bears and Packers and you're just there for the entertainment, it makes for a fun day. I got to tell you. Yeah, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, same thing. Kenosha as well, Racine. Yeah, great places. Didn't I like this year's draft? They did not contribute teams that could contribute right away except for Tippmann. Yeah, there's really not much of an argument to make here. They drafted guys for the pipeline. That is what they did. Even Jackson Smith-Njigba is not doing a whole heck of a lot, really, for Seattle, but you still could have drafted Jordan Addison. You could have drafted Zay Flowers. There were still options there, but they really drafted players for the pipeline to develop, and over time they might come to be good players. But yeah, it is a little frustrating that we took a lot of raw athletes. JBC, Barnes, Zach Coots, and I want to see him succeed, go ODU. I really want to see him make it. But yeah, it's going to take some time. And McDonald, nothing against the guy. There's just a surplus at the position. But again, you can't always be drafting for a position. You draft the best player that you have on your board, and then you make room for that player. It's outside of like quarterback. You don't really draft for a position, especially early on. And this franchise, this team, they don't do it that way. They don't draft by position. Not saying right or wrong, but they don't do it that way. We have that mindset as fans because, what else are we going to go by, right? We see the holes. It's like plug this hole here, and here. But that's not how an NFL team does the draft. So. Why don't we use the tight ends more, especially playing 3 at once? Mess, I've screamed for this. I have been screaming for that. I would like to see all 3 tight ends on the field a lot more. Sometimes they'll do it 15 times a game. Sometimes they'll do it 2-3 times a game. But I'll tell you this, when your depth at wide receiver stinks and you have good depth at tight end and you have a good fullback and your best player on offense is a running back, it seems to make sense. But then again, this is a dangerous thing we're doing, guys. We're applying logic and reason and common sense. something that the Jets coaching staffs have are not typically doing over the last 50 years and 55 years of this franchise. Johnny Jimenez not having Irvin Hardy hurt us. Yeah, I'm willing to bet that they don't get that touchdown, that punt return touchdown, if Justin Hardy is healthy. And we haven't heard anything about him coming back yet. We know he's on IR, but yeah, there's I've always been a Hardy defender. Hardy does have his detractors. I've always been a supporter of his, and yeah, he was sorely missed. I would say in that game. How is it that Stroud, behind 4 backup offensive linemen, threw for 5 touchdowns and put up all the points they did? Zach has 5 touchdowns for the whole season. Well, Stroud's a pretty special guy. He's only turned the ball over, I think, twice all season, for one thing. He has very good football sense, very good football awareness. Yeah, one of those offensive linemen is George Fant. Let us not forget that. They just had really good mojo. And I tell you what, I can't even say it's the Atlanta defense. Atlanta's got a pretty good defense too. They do. But man, oh man, that was a heck of a performance. And I will say this: it will be very, very interesting to see C.J. Stroud against Cincinnati on the road this week, because Cincinnati forces a lot of turnovers. And then December 10th, Jets-Texans. If the Jets are still in this race, if they want any chance of the wild card race, if they're still in it at that point, that game is going to be big. You know, guys, I did a video on this like 2 weeks ago that Houston was going to be a team in the mix that the Jets were going to have to watch out for, because Houston had a very easy schedule coming up. And they were playing some good football, and I really, really like their coach. That might have something to do with it, is D'Amico Ryans. Very, very inspiring young coach. I like him a lot. So that Jets-Texans game, that could mean a lot. And who would have thunk that at the beginning? All right. It is a week-to-week situation, Snowball. No doubt about it, man. It's crazy. You're civil, you know, by the time you go week to week. It's just when you think you've got this league figured out, it'll change up on you. Like watching the NFL, picking these NFL games, you know, I do my picks every week. It's like picking the NCAA tournament. It gets more challenging by the week. By the week. You know, you always figure there's like 2-3 games. Yeah, these games are in the bag. And then next thing you know, the Broncos beat the Chiefs, break that losing streak. Who would have ever believed it was going to happen? You know? But I will say this. The defense seems to be getting better and better and better. You still have confidence in the special teams. You have to. You know, I'm not going to destroy them over one bad broken play, even though it's certainly hurt. But it's like, why should I believe this? We've been playing now 2 months. The season's been going on 2 months already. And the offense is going backwards by the week, it seems. I want to have faith they're going to get it turned around, but I need to see it now. I need to see it. I can't put blind faith in this offense. I can't put it in Zach Wilson. I can't put it in Nathaniel Hackett. I can't put it as long as Billy Turnstiles is on the offensive line. I know he's hurt, but you get my point. It's rough. It's rough, but you know what? It's we're not boring this year. That's for sure. I need to sacrifice my Achilles. You know what? If it means the end of my running days and it allows the Jets to have a big season, eventually make a Super Bowl, then you know what? You can have it. Oh, hard for our mental health. It's a wonder I have. It's a wonder my mind is still sound. It's amazing I still have dark hair left. I don't know how. I told a person I was working with, a student I was working with at work the other day, guys, that we're doing a whole. She was mentioning the age and whatever, and she said, "I mean, you're like what, 28, right?" I'm like, yeah, okay. Told her I was born in '81. She couldn't believe it, but I don't know. Hey, GVH, good to see you, man. Do I think Jacobs is going to be the best running back we faced so far? Eckler, good. Saquon was the whole offense for the Giants. Let's think about that. Okay. The Bills, I wouldn't put any Bills running back there. I don't think James Cook is on that level. Stevenson, I feel, has been a disappointment with New England. I can't put him there. Tony Pollard, pretty solid. Good running back, too. I would put him up there with Eckler or Saquon. I will say Isaiah Pacheco. He gave us a lot of problems with Kansas City. I think Jacobs is a very good running back. I think Eckler is a little bit more dynamic. I think he's a little bit better at catching the ball out of the backfield. Saquon's up there too, but he was coming off an ankle sprain. So I think Jacobs is up there. I'd put him in the top 3, I'd say, with Eckler and Saquon. But you know what? Don't forget Isaiah Pacheco, because we had some problems with him for sure. So, but I will tell you this, with a rookie quarterback, and we talked about it earlier, I'll put this back up for anybody who's coming a little bit late. Look at number 4, okay? Against the Giants, the Raiders ran on 58% of their plays, whereas in every game before that, under Josh McDaniels, they ran only 36% of the time. So why wouldn't they do the same thing to the Jets? The run defense is going to have to be ready. And again, losing Al Woods, that makes the job a little bit more challenging. But the whole game is Josh Jacobs, Max Crosby. If those two don't take the game over, I give the Jets an excellent chance to win this game. I haven't totally decided yet who I'm going with in my picks. I feel like the Jets have the deeper team. They have the better team, but it only takes a little bit. It only takes pulling out one card for the whole house of cards to come crumbling down. All right, let's keep going. David D. Oh, thank you very much to everyone in the chat. Happy Veterans Day. Is that? Oh yeah, that is today, right? Was that? Yeah, that was today. Yeah. Yeah, I used to work with veterans quite extensively in my current job. We had some duties get reassigned. But yeah, Veterans Day is Saturday, November 11th. But yeah, happy early Veterans Day to everybody who has served. Thank you very much. And as somebody who has worked with them for about 4 years, helping them with their education, heard a lot of stories, and I've become that much more appreciative of servicemen and women, no doubt about it. Yeah, we'll stay for a few more minutes. You said it, I didn't. I know, Johnny. I know. Let's see what else is going on. Yep, Steelers' last losing season was in 2003. It feels like that was the last time we made the playoffs. Yeah. Go back to Zach. If they wanted Zach to have a redshirt year, which would have been this year, how come they would not have put an experienced quarterback behind Rodgers at 39 years old? They're so stubborn with Zach. Tim Boyle didn't count? I guess you didn't want to tie too much of your salary cap with quarterbacks because you figured Rodgers was playing the entire time. I certainly wish they hadn't signed Dalvin Cook and instead had used that extra money maybe on a quarterback or maybe another offensive lineman or on another wide receiver. But again, when Corey Davis left the team as late as he did, I think that really threw a lot of plans sideways. I think Davis was going to have a very good season this year. But yeah, it's unfortunate that you respect the man making the decision he made. It's his right. It's his choice. It's his life. Can't blame him for that. I'm just very disappointed at the timing of it, the fact that it happened midway through training camp. And then everybody got moved up a notch, and yet McCole Hardman was never used. It just doesn't make sense how these offensive coaches have used this personnel, whether it's in play calling or whether it's with snap counts. Just doesn't make sense. But, you had guys like Carson Wentz out there. They decided not to do that, and that's fine. They have Trevor Siemian now. And like we talked about earlier, Siemian, I believe, should absolutely be activated for this Sunday. I'm not saying he needs to start, but I think he should be active because let's be honest. Last year, the Jets were 7-4. They lost their last 6 games. And the Jets had a damn good defense last year, too. If I'm Robert Saleh, am I hitching my wagon? Am I hitching my future? Maybe my only opportunity as a head coach in the NFL. Am I putting that on the shoulders of Zach Wilson? In what world does that make sense? He did it last year. Oh, he went down with the ship. He can't do it for a second year again. He can't let him ruin it. Again, I'm not saying Zach is the only reason that things have been bad on offense. It's not. But when you are holding the ball too long, when you don't have pocket awareness, when you can't hit accurate throws. See the first pass to CJ Mosley on the first drive when he airmailed it over his head. You had to know right there that it wasn't going to be our night. The punt return there were two signs. Three signs. The punt return, airmailing the pass to CJ, and Garrett putting the ball on the ground. All in the first 8 minutes of the game. Once those three things happened, I didn't give up on the game, but I was like, this ain't our night. This ain't looking like our night, guys. And what else can I say? We were never truly in that game. Man. Zach, yeah, watch maybe like in let's see, an NC Division 1 AA team. I think that's about what you're looking at. Just when I think I'm out, they bring me back in, meaning they're probably going to win on Sunday, right? David D with a little shout out to the veterans too. Fantastic. Yeah, Jets could easily be 6-2 or 2-6 without how close their victories have been, except for the Denver game. Yeah, every one of them's been close. Hey, Jets aren't going to do anything pretty. We know that. We're Jets fans. We're not used to things coming easy. We work. Jets fans are blue collar. Jets fans are hard workers. We appreciate all the success that we get, all the good times we get, because it's not guaranteed in this life. We know that. So. And even the Denver game, we needed that a late turnover to really put it away. That was no gimme. Put it this way: if I had to think of one game I think the Jets could win in a blowout, I'd probably say it'd be the Washington game at home. Without a pass rush, not they trade their pass rushers, I think the Jets can really, really beat down on Washington. Sam Howell's good, but he ain't seen anything like the Jets pass rush yet. I'm very confident. That's probably the game I'm most confident in the rest of the season. So if Zach does not trust his offensive line, he will throw off his back foot, run backwards, throw the ball on the ground. Yeah, he may. He did throw the ball on the ground it was like a second down. I think he just threw it into the ground immediately. Man alive. Johnny Jimenez, how come when I use the Jets and Madden they score a lot? Because you're playing on beginner level. Jets mess. We are not winning Sunday. Why so confident, Jets mess? Talk to me. Yeah, Mess, you made a statement. I want to hear some reasoning. I think the whole chat wants to know why you're so confident we're not winning Sunday. Or is this like a little reverse psychology play that we're trying here? I could certainly make an argument why both teams can win this game. But to say definitively that the Raiders are going to beat the Jets, I can't say that I'm behind that one. Can't say I'm with that. But if you truly believe that, yeah, I definitely want to see your reasons why. And I think about the quarterback situation between Jimmy Garoppolo, Aiden O'Connell, and Brian Hoyer. It's like if I had my choice, who would I want to see? To me, Brian Hoyer is one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen in the NFL, but he protects the ball decently. Garoppolo is incredibly turnover prone. I think very talented, just always injury prone, but he has had a bad season. Even I can't deny that. I was not 100% against the idea of the Jets getting Garoppolo if everything else failed, but he was definitely my number 3 behind Rodgers and Carr. But yeah, there was no way around it. He has been bad this season, but I think this is going to be O'Connell's, 3rd game he's ever started. And you got the Raiders feeling themselves up, right? I'm sure you've all seen the clips. Max Crosby in the locker room smoking the cigars, all covered up in his tattoos. It looked, you could barely even see inside the Raiders locker room because it looked like a complete cloud of smoke. And smoke all the cigars you want. They're feeling themselves up. They're feeling confident. It's up to the Jets to come out quickly and make a statement and take them out of it and get the Raiders to doubt themselves. This is only the 2nd game that Antonio Pierce has ever coached. You can get by a lot on emotion, energy, motivation, all that kind of stuff. It goes some ways. But when the game gets tight and you got to come up with a plan to overcome adversity, can you do that? Let's make the Raiders earn this victory. That's the thing. Let's not give it away. Make them earn everything they get in this game. Because if we do that, I believe the Jets are the better team. Adam, real question, as opposed to a fake one. Why does Zach throw the ball 100 miles an hour like he needs some touch in some of the balls he throws? Why does Zach do a lot of things? I think Zach overthinks things. He processes slowly. He overthinks. He panics, and he just wants, and that leads him to doing things he shouldn't do. We talk about that. The play I keep coming back to is where he pitched it to Michael Carter. It was like 3rd down and 8. He had about 15 yards, 10 to 15 yards of open field in front of him, and he pitches the ball right to Michael Carter when he had a Charger defender closing in on him. He makes the immediate tackle, and the Jets can't get the first down. To me, that was the quintessential Zach Wilson play, making the wrong decision at the wrong time, not using his brain, and making a decision that wound up hurting his team. It didn't take a turnover. It didn't even take taking a sack. It was a play where the Jets gained positive yardage, but it cost them a chance to get a first down because he made the wrong decision in the moment. His football IQ is somewhere between a beet and a cabbage. Snowball, if we win, we have to sacrifice a player. Who's it going to be? I'm hoping it's already happened, and I hope it's Billy Turner. Jets mess. If we fire Saleh next week, it's not going to happen. What coach would you take on to be head coach? Saleh's not going to go anywhere. No coach is going anywhere unless they have a chance at a better job, because they're going to get their 1 year at least with Aaron Rodgers. Hackett's not going to go anywhere. Saleh's not going to go anywhere. Maybe one of these defensive coaches gets an opportunity to be a coordinator. I could see that happening, like a Tony Oden or an Aaron White Cotton, something like that. I could see being very possible. But the offensive coaches, I'd be surprised if any of them go anywhere. If I was to bring a coach, well, is John Harbaugh available from Baltimore? That's who I've wanted for about 10 years, is John Harbaugh. I will say this. I would want a coach who has some offensive intelligence, because the Jets have been hiring defensive coaches since, who's the last offensive coach the Jets hired at this point? Was it Al Groh? Was that the last one? No, he was a defensive coach too. I think you have to go back to Parcells. Is it Parcells? Kotite? Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, think it was. Yeah, we had. Gase doesn't even count as an offensive coach. He was just an idiot. Please, but before that, yeah. So Gase, before that, it was Bowles, Rex, Mangini, Herm, who's defensive coordinator, Groh, Parcells, Belichick, Kotite, and Bruce Cosley. So I guess the last Jets offensive coach who had anything very successful was Bruce Cosley. It feels that way. Huh. So I would definitely want a coach who has some offensive prowess. Don't know who the big names are, because to be honest with you, I'm not thinking about it because I don't think it's realistic. But if I could bring in like a coach right now, it would be John Harbaugh. I have a lot of respect for what he's done in Baltimore. That's the guy I'd want. What just happened here? I'm actually Zach's dad. I use the screen name to promote his lacrosse videos for college recruiting. I've been a Jet fan since 1970. I've suffered all these years rooting for this team. Well, Zach's dad, you get to do it with us. So you get to do it in community. Or, yeah, Mr. Rosenberg, yeah, I'm really glad you're here. And, yeah, I hope your son gets to go whatever school. What school does he want to go to? Not that I have any say. I do work in education, but I don't have that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I work at a school that doesn't have athletics, unless you count esports. So, yeah, we're actually the Rams, but we just do the esports. But but I definitely hope that works out well for him. Yeah, for sure. 1970, that's about the worst time, because you can remember all the misery but no Super Bowl. Oof. My heart is with you, my friend. My heart is with you. Oof. That's like me being a Mets fan, but my memories go back to 1988. I can't remember 86. That's about as bad as it gets, right? I know, Gase, right? What position am I drafting with the first round? Too soon? At this point, I will say this. I don't want to go quarterback. I want to help out this offense. And again, you have to be a little careful about going with the position, but put it this way. If I had equal grades on two guys, I would probably go offensive line first and I'd go wide receiver second. That's what I'm thinking. I think the Jets will bring back Becton. I think they will franchise him. Tomlinson will still be around. Tittman will be at center. AVT, God, I love AVT, but it's frustrating waiting for him to get healthy. You plug him in somewhere. Maybe ideally you'd have him at right guard and Carter Warren would be ready to play right tackle. I don't know if he's going to be ready, or Max Mitchell. One of those guys. That would be perfect, but you can't count on that. So offensive line or wide receiver, because Garrett Wilson really needs another playmaker on the opposite side. They really, but you know what? There are a lot of guys coming up in free agency. T. Higgins is the first one that I think of. If the Jets could get him, hopefully players will take less money because they want to play with Aaron Rodgers. But man, I'd love to bring in T. Higgins. That would make my day. So, yeah, but definitely offense. I don't think there's any way the Jets can't go offense. And because we'll have our first, then we'll go to the third. We won't have a second round pick as of now, unless we make a trade or something like that. So, yeah, I don't mind drifting a quarterback to develop. But again, if I know quarterback's a little different, but if we draft a quarterback, aren't we doing the same thing that we did this year, where we're drafting for the pipeline, linebacker, defensive end, all of that? I really want somebody who can play immediately, because it's going to be a win now team. Plug and play player on offense. That's what I care about the most. Man, we're getting up to midnight. It's close. Man, we're close to 2 hours. This is awesome. So Zach's dad next year draft offensive linemen and wide receivers. We've rolled back the same OL for 2+ years. Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, you can't predict injuries if they don't have an injury history. AVT didn't have an injury history. Becton didn't have an injury history. McGovern played every snap until he just got hurt. Tomlinson has been very durable. You can hate his play, but he's been very durable. So, yeah, and we're going to lose a few defensive linemen. I mean, Lawson's going to be gone, no question about it. A couple of these guys are signed to one-year deals like Jefferson and Woods and Thomas. So some of these guys will go. And, of course, Bryce Huff is an unrestricted free agent. We all hope he comes back. But I still wonder sometimes if they drafted McDonald to be the replacement for Carl Lawson and or Bryce Huff. I really, really wonder about that. David D, when do we finally cut ties with Zach Wilson? Well, this is his third year, and they're obviously not going to pick up his option. I think it could be possible he gets traded in training camp next season. I think the Jets, if they're going to do it, they're going to have to do it before next season starts to get some level of trade value. But I don't think they're going to do that unless they have another young quarterback in the pipeline, because right now they don't. They don't have one at all. So that's why I'm good getting a quarterback somewhere in the middle rounds on day 2, early day 3. I could get with that. And as time goes on, we'll look at that a little bit closer. Like, I'm not Dom C. I mean, Dom C, that's the guy for all the prospect information. He's the guy to look at. No doubt about it. I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not as good at, and that is Dom's wheelhouse. So I'm sure he'll be able to give you some names. I will give you one local guy, Henderson, the linebacker from ODU, from Old Dominion. That guy's a tackling machine. He's like that safety linebacker hybrid. I think it's I know his last name is Henderson and starts with a J. I want to say Jamie Henderson, but that's the old Jet. But for the Old Dominion games that I've seen, Henderson has been quite a force. Jason Henderson, number 42, Jason Henderson. I think he's good. That's a player. I don't know what his draft prospects are, but all I know is he is all over the field every time I watch him play for the Monarchs. So that's my draft prospect to watch. Of course, I'm going with the ODU guys. I was really bummed they lost to Coastal Carolina, but who cares? All right. Hank G's checking out. Good night. Thanks for the stream. You are very welcome, and I appreciate you coming by every week. The loyalty means a ton. I got to get something going with memberships here. To get some emojis going, I got to get something going here. I got to really settle in and look into that over the next week or two. Make sure I'm doing something that makes sense. Oh, went to the museum to watch Super Bowl, and I was still living in New York. Museum of Radio and TV. I think I've been to that one too. Yeah, that was pretty good. Harlan, Snowball Jets have to draft an O lineman, maybe two or three for the entire draft. Well, you still have Tomlinson for another year or so. You just drafted Tippmann. You still have AVT, so you got a couple of positions that are in pretty good position. The question is, are you going to commit to Mekhi Becton? But you also drafted Mitchell. You drafted Warren. Nobody knows yet. If you want, maybe one in free agency, maybe. I'm definitely open to drafting one, but definitely the bulk of this draft right now, it's 5 picks. You hope at least you hope if they go with 5 picks, you have to hope at least 4 on the offensive side of the ball. It really has to be that. That's definitely my thoughts on that. But again, I always try to get a little bit careful about, okay, we definitely need to make sure we get this position, this position, this position, because we know the Jets are just going to take the best player on their board at that time, regardless of position. That's how they're going to do it. And that's why in the later rounds, when they draft a linebacker, we're like, what? So you just have to get ready for it. And I know it takes a lot more work, a lot more research, and it's not easy to do because it's not a science. It's a very, very difficult thing to figure out who's going to work and who won't. But yeah, but definitely you have to focus on the offensive side of the ball. And I know I'm not breaking any new ground by saying that, but yeah, I definitely want to see one skill position player. But again, you could do that in free agency. But yeah, you wanted to bring in another offensive lineman and a quarterback to develop. I'm definitely in favor of that. To quote LA Knight, yeah, yeah, I heard somebody say, you're a Mets and Jets fan. You got a lot of character because you overcome toughness. I'm like, I don't care about the character anymore. I want a championship. It's an interesting. Mets brings up an interesting point. Didn't the Jets play 3 linebackers last year? I always remember Quan playing. Quan played a decent amount of the time. He's actually looking pretty good in Pittsburgh. He had a pretty big interception, I believe, against Tennessee. I'm actually going to look this up because I think I saw this. Jets snap counts in 2022. Let's see if I can find Quan Alexander. Okay. So for linebackers, CJ played 98% of the snaps, which surprises nobody. Quincy played 69% of the snaps. Quan Alexander played 49% of the time. So the Jets most of the time, played with 2 linebackers, but it was about a 50-50 proposition whether they played 2 or whether they played 3. So Quan played a good amount of the time. This year, they're really emphasizing the nickel defense. It's really a 2 linebacker situation. Sometimes they're even, I think, putting a 5th defensive lineman on the field. But like we talked about, there are times when Jamie and Sherwood gets less than 5 snaps a game. And I don't even know if he's necessarily playing that badly. I just don't think his skill set fits what they're trying to do on defense. And also, Quincy and CJ have just been so good together. Hey, Snowball, am I planning to go to any games during the season? Not right now. It doesn't look like it. I had 1 or 2 games that I was considering, but for one thing, I try not to miss more than 2 games a year because with my club, being that I am the president, I feel like it's the right thing for me to be there as much as I can. I already missed the Kansas City game because I was in New England for my college homecoming. So I missed that game, and I might miss one of the games around Christmas. The plan right now is that I'm going to be in Arizona around the Christmas season, right around Christmas Eve during that whole time. So that is the plan as far as that goes. And again, I'm one of those guys, I would rather be hanging out in a sports bar, watching it with a bunch of people, watching a bunch of games, following everything, because football to me is very communal. And when you factor in the weather, the travel difficulties, it's tough. Next year, hopefully. But one thing's for sure, I don't like going to a football game and I don't know anybody there. I could do it with baseball. I could even do it with hockey to an extent too. But football, I want to be in a group because it's not even so much about the game. It's about the experience. It's about the tailgating. And if you don't have that, you're missing out. And that's something I learned when I went to opening day last year. I hung out with a bunch of other of the content folks, met a bunch of the fans, just had a wonderful, wonderful time. Yeah, for sure. And it's like, it's hard to live up to that as much fun as it was. So that's kind of my thought on that. Johnny, have a good night. Say hi to your wife and to your kid for us. Good to see you. Miss Quan, yeah, Quan was a good player. Quan was a good player. I can't say the defense is missing him though, not necessarily, but yeah, he was a darn good player, no doubt about it. Yeah, glad I didn't invest in the NFL ticket this year. I will say this: Sunday, I watched the Red Zone first time. I'd never seen Red Zone before. I got a free preview of it, and I had so much, especially those last two games, the Minnesota Atlanta game and Houston Tampa Bay. Oh my lord, those games all coming down at the same time. That was so cool. That night, that was a fun night, fun afternoon for sure, and stress free with no Jet game going on. But getting to watch the ends of all those games, it was like the perfect day to have Red Zone. Yeah, had a really good time. Billy SBC, good to see you, man. Late arrival or late post. Why can't the team just play basic football? Why can't they play basic football? Well, you have a bad line, a quarterback who doesn't have a brain, a coordinator who refuses to adjust, and several subpar skill position players who play way more than they need to. I think that's a pretty good start, referring to the offense. There's not one thing the offense does really well, especially when the other team is completely focused on stopping Brees Hall. Now, like we said, the Raiders have a very suspect run defense. So I could see Brees breaking one out. Shoot, I could see Michael Carter busting one out. I could see maybe reverse to Gibson. Get guys like that in space. It is on the passing game coordinator. It is on the offensive coordinator to come up with a plan to get these guys in space where Zach can see them, recognize it quickly, and boom, get the ball out of his hand into their hands and let them run down the field. Guys, have you noticed this? I feel like with this offense, there is no yards after the catch ever for the Jets. I watch any other team in this league, they're running in open space, they're catching the ball on the slant, and they're go. With Zach, it's like it's a pop-up, and then it's a jump ball, and boom, down we go. We all fall down, and there's no yards after the catch. That's another reason we don't have big plays on offense. Because these receivers, even when they do have some space, Zach isn't putting the ball there like on the nose, and that hurts it too. So that, yeah, I think a lot of that is on Zach. So, yeah, we don't get yards after the catch. I haven't seen the stats, but if you had to look at total yards after the catch, I can't imagine the Jets are not last or maybe second to last. Right? I mean, I think that's fair to say. I'm going to see if I can look this up. Yards after catch? I don't know. I don't know if there's a website that yards after catch by team 2023. I want to see if I can find this. So we're going to be doing some live research here. Let's see. Average yards after the catch. I think this is going to be by player. Let's see. Yards per catch. Yeah, this is yards per catch. 1 yards after the catch. Okay, here we go. Oh, okay, we got it. Your total yards after the catch. Okay, I got some here for you all. Okay, so the Chiefs are first overall with 1,437 yards after the catch. I don't think we have that many passing yards for the whole season. So, by the way, it's so bad New England's actually 11th in this category at 1,000 yards even, which is amazing to me. But the Jets are 31st in total yards after the catch with 747. The only team worse is the Arizona Cardinals with 734. Only Arizona is worse than the Jets at yards after the catch. So that's the whole thing. And I think that's on the coordinator and the quarterback, but the quarterback a little bit more because we've seen some times with slant routes where there's like a step and the pass is just ahead or just behind, and that F's the whole play up, doesn't it? It just doesn't. So yeah, there's the stat. There's the stat for it. And just to put this to give you like a median, the 16 team in yards after catch is Dallas 965. The Jets are at 747 for the year. Sucks. Just sucks. It's frustrating because again, this is a league that is completely focused on offense. emphasize offense. They want to open it up to offense. And yet the Jets play like freaking Woody Hayes at Ohio State back in 1965. I mean, this offense, it feels like they can't open a hole for the running game if there was no defense on the other side of them. Zach Stabby got into that. Yeah. We have not had a touchdown that lasted more than one drive since I think it was the Kansas City game. I think that's the last offensive touchdown we've scored that was more than a one-play drive. Because you've had Brees has scored, I think, like 3 times, but it's always been the first play of a drive. We can't create a drive for a touchdown even. The offense is downright archaic. 3rd down, red zone, yards after the catch, not even getting into the red zone anymore, blocking ability, you name it, it stinks. And there is some talent on the offense. You can't tell me there isn't talent there. But it is not coming together. And the longer the season goes on, the less likely that we can believe it's ever going to happen. And that blows because it's a shame to waste a defense like that. I mean, I'm genuinely worried that some of these guys are going to ask out, that they're going to want out. So, as great as Joe Douglas has done a fantastic job of putting the defense together, made some great trades, made some great draft picks, made some mistakes. Every general manager will make mistakes, but it was an offense specifically tailored to Aaron Rodgers, from the players to the coaches. And when Rodgers went down, you didn't even have a lesser version of Aaron Rodgers there to play. You had Zach Wilson. You went from calculus to first grade math. You know, a 6 or 7 year old can't solve calculus equations. And I feel like that's what too many times they've asked Zach to do that. 5 wide on 3rd and 1, Zach ain't pulling that off. He's not doing it. Yeah, playing the 32nd. Billy's right. Playing the 32nd rated passing defense in the NFL. They can't score against it. What defense can they score against them? I will say this: the Raiders have a very bad. The Chargers had, I think, the 6th best run defense. So you do have to factor that in. But so this defense, I think they can score some points. Some points. But again, you got to neutralize Crosby. You have to focus on the run because you cannot let Max Crosby take this game over. Outside of Crosby, who do you fear on the Raiders defense? You don't. Billy, I think you're just concerned they're going to get destroyed against the Raiders. I think you're just a little bit worried. And I understand that. But there's just a good chance that we could destroy them. They're feeling themselves up. They're cocky. They're sure of themselves. They're lighting the cigars like they're freaking Red Auerbach on the Boston Celtics. You know, good. Let them be confident. Let them be cocky. Cool. We smack them in the mouth early. They're not going to recover. They're not going to recover. And am I supposed to be worried because the Raiders kicked the Giants' butt last week? I'm not worried about them. Not over that. If the Jets play the way they are capable of playing, they will win the game. Just don't know how capable they are on offense because I don't know if they're willing to make the changes they need to make. And again, Robert Saleh, are you really willing to let your career go down the toilet because of Zach Wilson? You did it last year. You can't do it again. Get Simeon activated. Have that backup plan. Billy's making Joe Beningo look like Ira in Staten Island with these posts. God dang. Whew. All right, guys. Yeah, this week was tough. And I was very, very pissed off on Monday. Not going to kid you about it. Did it kill the season? No, it did not. But it made their possibilities of making the playoffs. It took an absolute hit. So now you have to win this game. Then you go out and you have to win at least one of the 2 games against Buffalo or Miami. You do that, you got a very, very good opportunity. But again, it's going to take 10 wins. I think, to do this thing. So if they're 4-4 now, 8 games, so they need to go, in my mind, at least 6-3 over these last 9 games. If they even if they were to lose that out on tiebreakers, I don't know if I would be that angry about it, but God, I want a playoff game so badly. I am so desperate for a playoff berth. Desperate for it. So to me, 10 games is going to be what's needed. And at this point, it might be the division. The division might be the way to get there. They got the opportunities. They still got 4 division games off the plate. They're going to have to win at least 3, maybe all 4, but definitely at least 3. So let's see what happens. Do one quick check here. One more run through some of the comments before we sign off for the night. Man, we went 2 hours and 15 minutes. Man, I still have a voice. I don't know how. Wheaties going to explode after the Miami loss. 4-7 and everybody's fired. No. Billy, come on. Nobody's going anywhere. Just let it go. Over under Jets 8 punts versus Vegas. Oh, just Jets punts? I'm going to say under. I'm going to say I think the Jets are going to put a few drives together. I think they're going to move the ball down the field a little bit. I think they will score some points in this game. I do believe they will score a red zone touchdown. I do think they will do a little bit better in this game. I'm going to say 6 punts. That's my initial thought. Did I hear Salad take the 5th on Michael K? Why they're not replacing Zen? Yeah, I think we all heard. Yeah. Nick Shine. Good to see you, Nick. Are you too late for trivia? I'm afraid so, man. We did 2 earlier. The second one was around the 1 hour mark, but I did another one about 45 minutes in as well. So there are actually 2 trivia questions. One was a little impromptu one about tight ends, and the other one was about Jets Raiders. So I'm glad you were able to take the time to stop by for a little bit. But yes, we did do trivia. So there's 2 questions, and yeah, definitely go back and check that out a little bit later on. Show up to your positive Nets comments. You're going to have to go back to about the 5-minute mark because I actually did mention their victory tonight over the over the Clippers and their 40. I guess it was the AARP Clippers coming to town with Westbrook and George and Leonard and Harden. Man, oh man, might be playing the Harlem Globetrotters sometime soon with that age. Billy, I didn't say they were going to. Okay, Billy, no, don't twist anything that I said. I said to make the playoffs. I think they will have to go 6-3 over the last 9 games. That was not a prediction, and it was not a spoiler to refer to Paul Heyman. No, it is going to take 6 wins for them to get to the playoffs. I think it's going to take that. And if they don't take 2 of the next 3 games, then I don't think it's going to happen because they got to win some AFC games now. Losing that Charger game put them in a situation where it's serious, real serious. Yeah, just a reminder, yes, definitely please hit the like button if you haven't already. It helps get the word out about the show, about the channel. So all your likes are very, very, very much appreciated. So just we'll hit to the thumbs up. All right, guys, we've been going for about 2 hours and 18 minutes. I think we're going to shut it down for the night. So just give you a heads up what's coming up. I will be rolling out memberships in the very near future. Plan is to have that out, I would say definitely by, if not next week, the week after, definitely by Thanksgiving. So we will be recording. I will be doing a hockey video in the morning, whether you're Rangers, Islanders, or Devils fan, check it out. Also, the preview of Jets Raiders. We're going to go into big depth on that. I'll be doing my confidence picks for this week in the NFL as well. And, of course, the 5 bold predictions video, that'll be up during the weekend. And then after the game, the 3 key plays you may not remember that affected the outcome of the game. So there's a bunch of new content coming out. Love doing it for you, and I appreciate everybody supporting. Thanks, everybody, for coming by tonight, and we'll see you right back here with more content from you know where.